Good morning. It's Monday, September 11th. My name is Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. I am the chair of the Economic Development Committee. I am here today with my colleague, Councilmember Marilyn Balkin, and we have our amazing guest, Councilmember Don Lukey. As you may know, we have 4 members on this committee, but 2 of them are running late. One of them is a council president. He's on council president duty, so he did inform me that he was gonna be here about 10 minutes late, so he'll join us as soon as he's available. Just to recap, the Economic Development full session is already out. So we'll start today with the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation business attraction and the office market oversight, which is this panel in front of us. Then on October 9, we're gonna have a discussion on business retention. Then on October 23rd, we have a discussion on the retail market, followed by the second session on urban districts, including OLO's 2023 evaluation of the Bethesda Urban Partnership. On November 6th, we're gonna have a discussion on agrotourism, and that session, very exciting session, is gonna happen at County at the Ag Historic Farm Park in Deerwood. So that will be at 9:30 a.m. as well. And then on November 16, we're gonna have a discussion on economic opportunities in the sports and the sport industry, followed by discussion on the restaurant sector, mostly about permitting. I've been doing a tour with DPS around the county, and it has been really hard to hear the challenges that the restaurant sector is facing in terms of permitting. Not just with DPS, but also HHS. So wanted to give you that preview. But today, as you all know, this is a very important discussion, and it's a follow-up really from our June 12th presentation on the first quarter of the Montgomery County Economic Indicators. Okay, as much as I love Montgomery County, and I think it's the best place in this nation because it is, you know, just not based on the location, but the talent that we have in this county. We do have our challenges, and we won't fix anything until we talk about it and be honest about the solutions that we may have. That presentation that we had back in June in terms of job creation that we don't have compared to other places in the region, it wasn't great. So this is a follow-up on that. We're gonna start with the office market discussion. And I am, you know, we as a committee, we're very honored to have all of you here today, industry leaders on this area. And I'm gonna pass it to Ms. Marlene Malkinson so she can kick off this panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We do have a staff report that was prepared by Logan Anbinder, so I want to thank him for this great work. But because you have so many wonderful speakers, we're not going to present it today. So if you have any questions, let us know. But we want to move on to the other presenters here, starting with the Planning Department, who's going to give you some background data.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Bilal Ali, and I'm the real estate market researcher in the Research and Strategic Projects Division at Montgomery Planning. And my role here today is just to provide a sense of the status quo for the office market and help orient you all to the size and scale of it and the nature of the trends that have been affecting our county over the past few years. I think I have a slideshow. I don't know if you, is that on here? No, this is the business attraction. This is the one I'm looking for. I think. So I think we're going to pull up the slides while I get started, but I think we have all the slides in the staff report, so I'll just get going here. like I said, I'm Bilal Ali, and I'm just orienting you all to the market. We have a roughly 1,500 office buildings in the county, according to CoStar, which is a private data vendor that accounts for about 75 million square feet of office. The vacancy rate as of the second quarter of 2023 was 16.5%, and the average rents are $30 or $31, so approximately per square foot. There has been some increase in the inventory since 2018, so over the past 5 years, where it was roughly 72 million square feet, and the vacancy rate has increased, which is one of the reasons that we're all here today. And rents have been relatively flat, although, as we know, inflation has been increasing as well. And I think we have these slides now, so we can...
It's a document, it's not a PowerPoint.
So just scroll, got it. Great. So here's our snapshot of the office market, as I mentioned, and moving on, just wanted to sort of orient everybody to the types of office buildings that we have as well. We have trophy office buildings, which are sort of newer, the highest end type of office building that we have. Here's the Avocet Tower, which was recently delivered in 2022. We also have traditional office buildings with relatively large floor plates. This is an example from the Rock Spring area. We also have life science office that's a mix of office, R&D, and manufacturing. Medical office buildings that are throughout the county and provide more local services and businesses. We don't have a lot of data centers, but we have at least one in the Fairlenburg-Cheney area. And then there are smaller office condos as well. And you can kind of see how these buildings are broken out by class as well from these images. That's not really a scientific taxonomy, but generally Class A buildings will have more features, more amenities, be in more desirable locations, and charge the highest rents. B would be a little more in the middle of the road, and C is sort of everything else. And just benchmarking our inventory to the rest of the region, you can see that the district has the largest inventory at nearly 169 million square feet, followed by Fairfax County with a roughly 119 million square feet. Montgomery County has 75 million, and then Prince George's has the smallest of those jurisdictions on your screen with 30 million square feet of office. And as you can see, the trends in rent as well have been relatively flat since 2018. The rents in DC are the highest at over $50 a square foot. In Montgomery County and Fairfax are more or less in line with each other at $30 to $32 a square foot, followed by Prince George's County. And as I mentioned, these rents have not necessarily kept up with inflation. And the sort of big story, I think, is in office vacancy. Certainly there's an inflection point in 2020 where office vacancy rates rise faster than they had been before. As of Q2 2023, our office vacancy rates are about 16.5%, which is in line with the District of Columbia. Fairfax County, which has a larger office market, has a larger vacancy rate, and all three have been increasing since the pandemic, but also since before the pandemic, although the pandemic certainly accelerated that shift in office market conditions. Interestingly, Prince George's County has not experienced the same effect, in part due to the fact that it has a smaller inventory, but they also have some sustained economic development efforts that are worth examining further to understand how they've been doing differently than us. I oriented everybody to the class mix in terms of what those buildings look like and what they offer, and just wanted to give everyone a sense of what we have here in the county. Class A has the fewest buildings, just over 200, but the most space because those buildings tend to be the largest. And Class A will generally attract, your largest businesses, your corporate headquarters, and sort of your higher order tenants. Followed by Class B and C, which have less office space in this county. And you can see here how rents and vacancy break out as well, to the extent that Class A buildings tend to reflect more of the office economy in terms of economic development and job growth. You can see how the vacancy rates are higher. There are also some newer Class A buildings that were delivered through the pandemic, as I'll show in a few slides, that are sort of elevating that vacancy rate, but it is more or less in line with the county average. And then the vacancy rates are lower for Class B and C, but the rents are also lower as well. I'm going to show a few data points that break out some of these metrics by geography, but just to get everybody a sense of how CoStar thinks of these markets, it's not really sensitive to jurisdictional boundaries, but it does carve up roughly with how we consider the county. So you can see, North Bethesda, Potomac is its own market, Bethesda Chevy Chase is its own market, and then Rockville, North Rockville, Gaithersburg is generally covering where life sciences would be, et cetera. And one caveat is that the I-270 North market, which is a very small submarket, does extend a little bit past Frederick County, but we removed the properties in Frederick just to right-size those numbers for you all today. And this is how it breaks out in terms of the portion of inventory by geography. The top 6 markets account for 85% of the office inventory. That's Bethesda, North Bethesda, Potomac, Rockville, North Rockville, Gaithersburg, and Silver Spring. And Germantown has a roughly 4.5% of the office market as well. The rents and vacancies tend to correspond with what you might expect. The rents are highest in Bethesda, followed by sort of North Bethesda, Rockville, North Rockville. Outlying Montgomery County East, which would be Olney, is somewhat of an outlier here, just given its the small size of that market. Gaithersburg has slightly lower rents than further down the 270 corridor, but also a lower vacancy rate. And as you can see, the vacancy rates are relatively high. Bethesda Chevy Chase, which has a concentration of Class A office building, does have a higher vacancy rate. There's also some new deliveries there, so we'll take a look at some of that in a minute. But the vacancy rates are above county average. Similarly, in North Bethesda, Potomac, where we also have some Class A, and then Germantown, which has a smaller footprint, also has a relatively high vacancy rate, along with lower rents as well. This doesn't explain all the vacancy in Bethesda and Chevy Chase, but this chart here shows deliveries and absorptions by each of those submarket. And just to define those terms, deliveries is when a building when a building receives its use and occupancy permit, it will be considered delivered, and so it's on the market and can lease up. And so that's what the blue bars are tracking, whereas absorption is net leasing activity, so it's the difference between net occupying of space versus net lease vacating of space. And so as you can see, most absorption has been net negative, so on the balance, tenants have vacated more space than they've leased in most markets. But one of the reasons that there is a higher vacancy rate in Bethesda Chevy Chase is largely due, in fact, to the Avocet Tower that started construction prior to the pandemic, sort of bad timing for when that was completed, and it's, as of the last quarter, still 80% vacant and still leasing up. So that's driving up the number a little bit. If you were to remove that, the vacancy rate in Bethesda would fall to maybe 17%, which is still above the county average, but closer. So the places where you have net positive absorption and deliveries include like North Rockville, where there's been some life sciences development, so that's kind of a sign of the strength of that industry in particular. Then you can see, of course, the impact of the Wheaton headquarters in the Kensington-Wheaton market as well. And there are some office projects that are still going to deliver within the next couple of quarters, including in White Oak, in Pike and Rose, where Choice Hotels and Sodexo, I believe, are going, Twin Brook Quarter, which is in the city of Rockville, and then a couple of life science developments in Germantown and Gaithersburg are slated to deliver as well. Yes?
Just a question about the corporate headquarters. So the Park and Planning and Marriott. So is this the entire building or the leasable space? I'm confused about that.
In the previous slide?
In the previous slide.
Yeah, so actually, it was mostly just to show why the delivery number was so high, but Marriott actually was sort of a net zero impact on absorption because it's a one occupant, so that building is actually occupied 100%.
And the same with the Wheaton.
Yes, that's right too. The thing is, the reason the absorption isn't as big is because it's the sort of the net leasing activity in all the buildings, and so there's a lot more buildings than just the ones that were delivered.
And just to make a small correction, on the Wheaton Park and Planning building, the lease part of that building is empty. It hasn't been leased. Everything else is all government agencies, but we have failed as a county to place something on the retail space.
Right.
Anyway, I had to say that.
No, it's true. That is still vacant today. So I know there was a discussion about that, I think, a couple of months ago, right? So, yeah, I understand. Just wanted to make this point as well, which is interesting and important, that office is an important but small component of our property tax base. The assessed value of our is roughly 14.9 million, which accounts for about 6% of the total assessed value of the county, which is predominantly residential. So, our economy is primarily residential. Office is important, but what this really tells us is that we might be somewhat inoculated from some of the more fiscal impacts that places like the district or maybe even Fairfax County might face. Federal leases are an important part of the office market in this county, as you all know. It's roughly 7.3 million of office space that's currently leased by the federal government. That does not include the campuses that they own. I think it's unclear where the trends in telework and hybrid work will end up. And we know that within the next 6 years, about half of this space will be up for lease, or will have to be renewed. And so there's a question about what the impacts will be. But again, this is much smaller than the number of federal leases in the district. Leases in the district, not including federal land, far exceed federal leases in the county. And so, again, to the extent that we're a suburban county, there may be some opportunity for the federal government here, because many of the workers might actually live here, but that's sort of conjecture at the moment. And the other sort of flip side is that newer buildings, trophy buildings, remain in demand. There's a stark contrast in the rents and vacancy rates for buildings built before and after 2010. We know that although office demand is weakening, what office tenants are looking for are higher tech buildings in urban and amenitized locations that are convenient to get to have collaborative spaces in there and sort of provide an alternative to the work environment at home. And just to sort of make this qualitative point that the office market is an odyssey, not a jaunt. Estimates about how much the office market declined range from 25% to 80%. So if that should tell us anything, it's that it's hard to pin a number down about what the demand really is today. Some economists have suggested that some businesses may have shed too much space and may look to re-up their leases again going into the future. It's hard to say, and then some businesses may look to the suburbs to the extent that that's where people live and may want to work going forward. And so just to summarize again, office demand has declined throughout the region. We're no exception, but as we mentioned, there are reasons to think that we may be inoculated from some of those impacts, just given the residential nature of our county, the relatively small portion of those federal leases, although again, very important. And again, the vast majority of buildings are more than 50% occupied, so they may be generating some revenue, certainly less than before. Can those property owners continue to pay operating expenses and debt service? That's an open question, but to the extent that they're still mostly occupied, they may not necessarily be at that moment where they need intervention yet. And so there's a little bit of a wait and see component to all of this as well. I'm Bilal Ali with the Research and Strategic Projects Division at Montgomery Planning. Here's my contact information. We have a blog out about office vacancy as well, so feel free to reach out if you have any other questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I thought that was a great presentation, and you did a great job too. I had to say, very straight to the point, and I love that you mentioned the importance of the federal government, especially when it comes to leasing properties here. And the reality is that if we want to increase the tax base in Montgomery County, we need to build more jobs here so people can move here. That's just common sense. With that, we're going to move on to our panel. If you can please introduce yourself before you speak. You have about 5 minutes each. And I'm gonna ask the committee, as always, to please hold your questions until the very end. And I'm gonna pass it to Ms. Marlene
Yeah,
Malcolmson.
I just want to remind you, we have 2 online participants
Yes, we do.
for this meeting. So
Would it be okay if they speak at the end? Or do you tell them, is that fine? Okay, so after the last panelist in person, we'll go online, okay? would you like to start first? Thank you so much.
We'll turn that on there. Good morning, Council. I'm Brad Wilner. I'm with CBRE. It's the world's largest commercial real estate services firm. Was born and raised in Montgomery County. Still live here today. I've spent my 18-year career working in Montgomery County and working on behalf of businesses and occupants, or occupiers as we call them. So our clients are basically the tenants that are leasing buildings within the county here. Was thinking about preparing for this, and it dawned on me that in later this month we've got two longstanding Montgomery County businesses who will be signing leases to leave the county, leaving behind about 60,000 square feet of vacancy for their headquarters, as well as hundreds of jobs. One of both of them will consider themselves technology and professional service businesses. One is going to Tyson's Corner because they wanted to be in more of a tech hub, as they called it. Their competitors are there, and so they felt it was important to be there. The other is going to downtown DC. They felt it was a more vibrant area for their employees, as well as for board members when they come in town, having a larger basis of higher quality office space, as well as hotels, restaurants, things like that. So that's just two quick examples, but it dawned on me that very timely given this discussion here. So we think about real estate from a supply and demand perspective, and Bilal, I think, gave a good overview in terms of what we're seeing, and as well as the challenges that we're faced with having higher supply and unfortunately limited demand right now. So the driver for that in many cases is the prevalence of hybrid work. So a lot of our clients in the businesses are giving more flexibility to their employees and their tenants to not necessarily have to come into the office. The resulting changes for the workplaces that they are based in essence, has shed space. And so you can create a collaborative environment for your employees, not necessarily allocating one office to one employee, but into some type of a shared environment, creating more meeting space and gathering spaces for those groups. So anecdotally, I would say we're seeing anywhere between 20 to 30% reduction in space needs for businesses. So as we think about the existing tenant base here in Montgomery County, it's a fair assumption to say that going forward over the next 2 to 5 years as those leases expire, many of those businesses will be shedding space. So from a demand perspective, we're going to see that down. Our research department from CBRE has shown 32% reduction in those that have moved over the last 3 years in terms of the amount of space that they're giving back. So unless there's outside tenants coming to the county, which have been few and far between, we know that the existing tenant base is not necessarily going to support the county going forward with office space. On the supply side, we're oversupplied and we've got too much obsolete office space. So our statistics, there's some nuances between CoStar, and I think you're going to hear from some other panelists here. We actually show the county over 20% vacancy, up from just under 14% first quarter of 2020. So a 50% increase in the amount of vacant office space that's come to bear. So in addition, the one thing that isn't shown in these statistics, and it's been a bright spot for the county, is that some of these buildings being converted from office to life sciences. So if you take out those 8 buildings and then another 13 buildings that have office space that are converting to life sciences, that'd be almost another 2% of vacancy if you factor that in. So that is one bright spot where we think about taking supply offline, is taking some obsolete buildings and perhaps repurposing them. So something that we would encourage the council to think through and provide some upside. By far, and there was a slide Bilal showed here, but flight to quality of all the relocations that we're doing with our clients right now, in many cases they're upgrading the quality of building that they're going to. So of those 5 trophy, or I should state, Montgomery County has 5 trophy office buildings the way we track that quality. I think you saw some examples of Class A versus trophy. To give perspective, the district has 48 trophy buildings and 14.4 million square feet. We've got about 2 million square feet. Northern Virginia has about 16 trophy office buildings. That's really important when you think about regional site selection and having high quality opportunities out there. So there's a direct correlation between sort of the incentivization of developers and building new product to make sure that we've got high quality options that are out there. So just to summarize, as I come up on 5 minutes here, really the lack of quality options we think is a big challenge for the county here. So if we're able to provide those type of buildings, we think that that's what would be attractive to the existing tenant base that's here. as well as incentivizing existing businesses that are here. I know there's been a priority for net new jobs previously, but would not forget the existing jobs and the existing businesses that are here to make sure that they're welcome and incentivized to stay here. The adaptive reuse of buildings we think is really important as well. So taking this obsolete office product that in many cases no new tenants are going to be going to just because of the quality of building doesn't support their businesses and their employees, is thinking about other uses for those. And while you're going to hear a little bit about life science conversions, I wouldn't discount what some of the other regions have done for multifamily redevelopment, medical office buildings, and so other ways of basically taking tired supply and converting it to more useful uses. And then the last thing I would say too, and you made a wonderful comment about the county being a great place to live, do not forget too, in many cases, site selection and locations are driven by where executives live. And so we have a very high income and very wonderful county here that supports having people here. But when we start alienating those residences, in many cases, you might be alienating the businesses that those individuals might run as well. So just thinking about that correlation between the individuals that live here as well as the businesses that are here as well.
Marriott is a great example.
I think that's a great
There you
example. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Next.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Metzroth. I'm the CEO of Wilco Companies. We're a locally owned commercial landlord and developer with a substantial portion of our portfolio in Montgomery County. And as it relates to the topic at hand today, just so you all have a perspective of where I'm coming from, the vast majority of our commercial office assets in the county are classified as Class B in most instances. So, given that we're long-term holders and we, have ownership track records dating back 50 years in some cases, might be coming from a slightly different perspective than others. When it comes to recent trends that we've seen in the commercial office market, to state the obvious, leasing activity in our Class B and even some of the Class A assets has dropped substantially. We used to get, calls or physical tours from prospective tenants and businesses multiple times a week, and now it's maybe 2 or 3 times a month. So, as a result of that, as imperative as attracting new businesses and new tenants to the county is, our focus has sort of been forced to reside more in taking actionable steps to retain the existing businesses and the existing tenants we have. Albeit, still very necessary that the part of an office building's long-term health needs to attract new tenants. As it relates to shifts in the market as a result of the pandemic, as Brad mentioned, shrinking footprints of tenants is a really big one. Speaking firsthand, we've had multiple tenants over the last 36 months. I think Brad said 20 to 30% of reduction. We're looking more at 30 to 40%. So we're working with the tenants, but that's still sort of where it's rubbing out. The other big variable we're looking at is the consolidation of space. So for tenants that we have that might have multiple locations, multiple physical offices, they're making the very intentional choice to consolidate into one of those locations. So, again, firsthand, we have tenants ranging from 5,000 square feet and 30,000 square feet that within the next 18 to 24 months will be consolidating to a single location. So the vacancy from that perspective might increase as well. And then there's the ever-evolving hybrid work model. We tend to think that it's trending in the right direction. People are coming back to the office, but hybrid working isn't going anywhere. It is here to stay. And anything we can do to try to incentivize the tenants to come back usually results in us having to spend more money to create a physical office that is attracting them to come back. It's hard to beat somebody's living room and their couch, especially if they have a family running around too. So when discussing the possibility of office to residential conversions or office to life science conversions, they always sound like a great idea, and candidly, that's because they are. But just because they are a great idea doesn't mean they're necessarily financially or physically possible. If there was some sort of incentivized funding program like other municipalities have created, it would be a much more palatable event to tackle to mitigate any sort of the inherent risk that comes with that. Wilco is doing a conversion downtown from the former Peace Corps headquarters. We're converting the former office building to 163 apartments with about 8,000 square feet of retail on the bottom. But quite frankly, the reason we could do that is because we've owned it since the 60s and we had no debt. So we had the capacity to take on that additional debt. The vast majority of the office buildings in the county have existing debt on it. So before you even sort of get started into it, more often than not, those conversion projects have a hard time penciling out. As far as actionable steps that the public sector could take to address these office vacancies, it's a really big question. Commercial building owners can't directly create jobs. The county can't directly create jobs. The biggest thing that can create jobs is attracting the right kind of businesses. And typically those are businesses that fall within the innovation sector. And as that relates to the county, we're talking life science. There's a massive domino effect when you create create an environment where the right kind of tenants, high-skilled tenants, cluster together. Then there's a multiplier effect with all the other less skilled jobs and less skilled employers that come along for the ride. So really, to me, it's about creating job opportunities and creating enough incentive for those high-end businesses and creative businesses to come to the county. Things like the MOVE program, the existing MOVE program, it's great in theory, but it's far from as robust as it needs to be. It does, it directly helps the tenants, but from the landlord's perspective, it's essentially just a drop in the bucket. We're still facing the same issues of funding and having to build out space for tenants that, quite frankly, are demanding it. So unless we can create some sort of incentivized program that's with a little more depth to it, the existing landlords are stuck sort of playing musical chairs with the existing tenant base, which is anything but sustainable.
Thank you very much for that report. It was right straight on the target, in my view. Next.
Hi, my name is Mark Rittenberg. I'm a founder of AMR Commercial. We're a Bethesda-based commercial brokerage since 1994. I'm a lifelong county resident. And obviously, having listened to this, and if you've watched the news, you know that the office market is having some problems. So my testimony is a little bit repetitive, but obviously in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis, we experienced a shift to remote work and a very slow return to the office. As a result, the demand for office space has plummeted. Office utilization is hovering around 50%. And I know we've talked a lot about vacancy rates, utilization rates. Marriott delivered, great, it's 100% occupied. But really, it's about 25 to 30% utilization. And so a lot of office buildings that show up in Bilal's report as leased, as low vacancy, really is covering a wave that's coming. Like these gentlemen discussed, tenants shrinking, not renewing, and moving. And nobody really knows what that number is, but it's coming. And it's not the first time that the county has seen the supply outstrip demand, but what is unprecedented is the speed at which it happened, and that it's happening in a time of low unemployment and high interest rates. And obviously a lot of people argue that the answer to many problems is conversion to residential. I've sold several office buildings since the pandemic, including one that was on Bilal's report, 1110 Bonifant, has that nice picture right next to the Sarbanes Transportation Center. I couldn't find a developer who wanted to convert that building. Unobstructed views on 3 sides, literally at multiple forms of public transportation. The cost is so exorbitant and the effort so great, and the market just isn't there in many places. And so the private sector is just unable to do it. And so it's just a problem that can't be solved just in the private sector. The government obviously is going to have to respond. What I did was I spoke to several of my landlord clients and tenant clients to get sort of a consensus on some action items that might actually be possible without taking on big, hairy programs to help solve this problem. And a couple of items that we came up with. This was brought up every time: building owner and building occupant, streamlining the permit process for office build-outs, allowing those trying to expand or move to the county the ability to do so without the multitude of delays that the county is well known for. Attracting a younger workforce by encouraging the nighttime economy to grow. A critical mass of young workers brings the employers, not the other way around. Looking at ways to make commutes faster. I know that's a big item, but one of the things that was brought up to me several times was, as more people once again begin commuting to the CBDs, things that make commutes more difficult, like bike lanes, must be re-examined. I know that's controversial, but some people feel as though we're choking off access to the engines, the economic engines of our county. And then the last thing, which this is a little bit of a bigger item, is a fund that loans or grants money to building owners whose biggest hurdle to expanding or adding tenants may be the huge cost of construction in today's market. Rental rates haven't moved in many, many years. Construction costs, as everybody knows, have skyrocketed. And so oftentimes an owner who has a tenant that wants to expand, or they want to bring a tenant from a building across the river or from the district, the cost to build them the space they need is just undoable. And so if there were a way for owners to access a fund somehow to help with that, we think that might possibly help bring new jobs and expansion to the county. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You touched on so many key points, including when you mentioned the nightlife economy. Let's not forget public safety.
Yep.
You know, businesses need to feel safe. Customers and clients need to feel safe to go and shop and go to the office any time of the day. So that's also a very key point. Which reminds me, I have a town hall in Wheaton on public safety tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Wheaton Library, everyone. And that has a direct impact with our business community. Next.
Good morning, Morgan Sullivan with JLL. We're a publicly traded real estate services firm. We are a bit contradictory, as we just renewed our lease at Pike and Rose for our full footprint of space that we had pre-pandemic. We do wish that there were more, to Brad and Ryan and Mark's observations. We do wish there were more tenants that were doing that in Pike and Rose and elsewhere throughout the county. I've been a practitioner at JLL for 30 years. I'm a resident of Montgomery County, and my book of business is primarily centered in Montgomery County. And Madam President, I would echo a statement that you made a moment ago. We are very fortunate, extraordinarily fortunate here in Montgomery County to have all the qualities that we enjoy as our citizens. We have a number of academic institutions. We have a large and robust cultural and entertainment segment. Our climate is viewed as favorable. We're proximate to our nation's capital. We're the headquarters of more than a dozen federal agencies. Each and every one of those qualities, every jurisdiction competing with us locally, regionally, and nationally would give their would give anything to have any of the, a number of those qualities, and we have all of those accumulated here. Yet, since 2017 to 2022, a period of 5 years, we lost 17,000 jobs, which is 3.1% of our total workforce. The national growth during those 5 years, growth was 3.8%. So that actually puts us at 6.9% behind the national average, notwithstanding all of those high quality characteristics that we enjoy as a citizens and professional practitioners here in Montgomery County. When I look at the county, I see a number of stumbling blocks and choke points, a number of which have been introduced by my fellow panelists, but allow me to walk through these. Permitting challenges, local income tax, floating minimum wage. We are not a right to work state, which we know you don't control, but that's very impactful when companies are doing a regional or national search. We have an energy tax. We have rent control, and we have recently increased recreation, real estate, and impact taxes. None of those are exclusive to Montgomery County. All of those in aggregate are exclusive to Montgomery County, and they put forth a message that we are not pro-business. Additionally, economic incentives are a very important part of retention and recruitment of companies, but they are not the determining factor. There has never been a company that made a decision to stay or move because of the amount of incentives they got. I view it as the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. And the cake and the icing are the ability to attract and retain employees. That's why companies move here. That's why companies stay here. Additionally, and my fellow panelists touched on this, we in the county have been hit high and low, much like every other jurisdiction nationally, by the double impact of the return to work, which was spurred by the pandemic, and also the dramatic increase in interest rates. So to Mark's point, yes, we track vacancy, but it's impossible to track the true measure of the health or unhealthiness of our office market, which is occupancy. And I do think, and it was in the presentation, that in this next 6 years, there's going to be a very severe reckoning as these buildings, as these tenants start to address their lease expirations rolling, and they don't need all the space that they've committed to and that they've continued to service. And when I look at specific addresses in specific buildings that many of us are familiar with, we could go on the rooftop of this building and look down on 4 buildings right here in the center of the city of Rockville that are distressed. 255 Rockville Pike, 21 Church Street, 600 Jefferson Plaza, 51 Monroe Street. Those are very symbolic buildings of what the distress that this county and our state and our country are going to be facing. Back to economic incentives, they are a very important component of attraction and retention, but they are a component. They're not the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that depressing overview. You're right on target, but this is why we're having this session today, also ahead of the next budget. We need to be radical in terms of what we're doing as a county to attract the innovation sector, especially the innovation sector, to move here. Next.
Good morning. Thank you, council members and council chair, for having us here today. Appreciate that. My name is Pete Briskman, and I also work for JLL. And I'll be brief because Morgan touched on a lot of points. However, I see things from a different perspective than a lot of these panelists, because I focus a big part of my practice on national site selection in comparison to local site selection. And whereas a lot of my business is local, we also compare national jurisdictions against Montgomery County. And so a lot of the things that our clients look at are not necessarily base rent or vacancy. It deals with labor, taxes, availability. Yes, affordability does matter. And Morgan touched on rent control, job growth, and training. And this is all really factored in and pulled together when determining where to relocate to. Some relevant data points here locally. Leasing volume pre-pandemic was about 9.5 million square feet. Post-pandemic, 7 million square feet. That's a reduction of about 36%. Of that, and this team of panelists did a great job of breaking it down, 60% of that activity for leasing is Class A. Class B is about 30%, and Class C is about 5%. And so what does that mean? There's definitely deal volume and flight to quality, but it's not keeping pace with companies downsizing, going hybrid or fully remote. So the vacancy rates in Class A, which we see somewhat as our trend and a little bit of a savior, it's actually a little bit misleading because it's actually rising despite having the majority of lease volume. Some other data points. New development in the last 10 years, and we'll pick on the I-270 corridor here versus the toll road in Northern Virginia. 517,000 square feet of new development on the I-270 corridor versus the toll road of 2.3 million over the last 10 years. So we should figure out why. I think we, as subject matter experts, we all have a pretty good understanding, but maybe dig a little deeper into that. And then just related to how national companies view different jurisdictions and compare them. And keep in mind that we've worked with Marriott, Total Wine, Novavax, and helping them negotiate their incentives. It really does matter, rent control, because they care about the affordability of where their employees live. And they want to make sure that there are measures in place. And the way they'll look at rent control and the way we look at rent control is not just that it's capped at 6%, with inflation, it's also about the potential future availability because developers won't want to build with those caps. So it is a little bit of a red flag. The job growth, that's going to be, it's a double-edged sword because talent is actually one of the biggest items that these companies look for when ranking different jurisdictions. And there's no question we have this highly skilled workforce, which is phenomenal. We have high concentration of PhDs, but from what I hear on a daily basis is that we really need to step up our game in training for specific job types that maybe aren't PhDs. My focus is on life sciences. I lead Mid-Atlantic Life Sciences practice for JLL. Prior to that, I led office brokerage for Maryland. And I can tell you that labor and training in life sciences is the #1 issue when we go out and search. And that then the trickle-down issues, again, related to that will be wages and payroll taxes and tax burdens when you compare different jurisdictions. So in summary, what we see on a national basis and comparing it locally to Montgomery County is we need to streamline the permitting process, reduce the tax burden, and have more of a business mindset, step up our game in training and growing our talent base, not only the talent we have here today, but the younger folks in starting a grade school with different trades. And the energy tax is again a double-edged sword because there's this tax, but together we can market the fact that the tax does go towards potential benefits of new buildings. And so that's something that we should all collaborate and consider in our marketing efforts. Public-private partnerships, the folks that we work with, the feedback that we get is that they want to have a larger say and they want to partner with public entities. And then in conclusion, in filling these office vacancies, it really is, and we've heard it today from our esteemed panelists, that it is a multifaceted approach. We need to develop these partnerships, public-private, implement targeted policies and targeted incentives. For example, life sciences, the MJM, more jobs for Marylanders. That played really, really well. And a lot of our clients wanted that to sunset, and it's geared toward manufacturing, which is something that we want to grow and compare to the other clusters. So if it's life sciences, that would be an example, but in attracting other industries, I think we should be very targeted in what these companies look for and what they need. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you touched, Pete, right?
Yeah.
You touched on a couple very strong points on the training views that you have, and really focus on manufacturing. It's so important. And I love that you also talked about the importance of making sure that our kids or children are ready to take on these jobs. The very first session we had in this committee back in January, was me being very upset with MCPS and how possibly it's the fact that third graders in this county are so far behind on math and reading in terms of performance. In our last budget, we really made a focus on ensuring that MCPS and the Montgomery County public school system will have more funds to support our young folks, because they're the future, and you touched on that, so I appreciate you for that. We're gonna move to our virtual speakers. We're gonna start with Mr. Oliver Carr. You are on, sir.
Good morning, council members. My apologies for not being there in person. Had some flight challenges trying to get back yesterday evening. And I'll try not to be too depressing. It's a tough subject these days. So I'm Oliver Carr, CEO of Carr Properties, and we are a institutionally held real estate investment trust focused on investing and owning and developing commercial office. And we have holdings in the DC area, including in Bethesda. We recently developed the Wilson and the Elm, which is a 1 million foot project in downtown Bethesda. We also built and own 4500 East West Highway. That building we constructed in 2014. But we've got a unique perspective because we're also active in the Boston, Massachusetts market, as well as in Austin, Texas. And we expanded into those markets because they are, innovation-based economies seeing a lot of growth. So the office market today is in really tough shape. It's actually the most challenging I've seen in my 30-year career. We're facing a demand problem because extended pandemic-related business shutdowns accelerated the trend to remote and hybrid work, reducing demand for office space. At the same time, the industry is facing a credit and valuation crisis due to the rapid increase in interest rates, and we're in a restrictive credit environment. These two big trends have led to a 40 to 50% decline in office values. Vacancy rates are at all-time highs, and in the suburban Maryland markets, if you include direct vacancy and sublet space, the vacancy rate is over 22%. We're also facing low utilization of space, which you've heard about today. So that measures, people coming in to work today versus what they did pre-pandemic. And our utilization rate today is about 45% of pre-pandemic levels, and that's nationally. In the DC metro area, leasing volumes are off by 40% from pre-pandemic levels. And all of these negative pressures, but most importantly, the decline in office building values, is leading to significant loan defaults. It's estimated that 50% of office buildings in the greater DC area now have a value below their current debt amounts. So that's a really troubling statistic. Sales volumes for commercial office are off by almost 80% year over year. And when you look at the decline in values combined with reduced transaction activity, that'll have a severe negative impact on tax receipts coming out of the office sector. The one bright spot we've seen is that there has been a flight to quality, and our company generally focuses on premier, quality office space. But the best quality buildings, frequently described as trophy office, are outperforming the rest of the market by a wide margin. So looking at downtown DC, for example, the vacancy rate for the trophy segment of the market is currently at about 12.5% versus an overall vacancy rate for the market of 18%. So the best quality, newest buildings are definitely outperforming. So, are these trends going to continue into the future? My opinion is that the weakness in office demand as a result of remote work is going to persist for a few more years. So what's happening today is companies are working through the process of right-sizing their office space to adapt to their new way of working. And this has resulted on average to about a 20% reduction in the amount of space companies lease. So when a company's lease comes up for renewal, generally they're reducing their space again by about 20%. I think this trend will eventually stop, but that's not going to happen until most companies have right-sized, and we're not quite there yet. So my view is this will continue for another 2 to 3 years. So in summary, it's a really challenging market. And when I think about how the county should respond and what the county can do to help heal this market, I think in the near term, and I mean, kind of immediately, the county should consider offering property tax incentives to encourage the repurposing of obsolete office buildings into residential use. You've heard today about how challenging it is to convert an existing building into residential, and I agree with that. So we use the term repurposing because frequently the best course is to tear down the existing office building and build new purpose-built residential. DC actually just put together a pretty good model for how to do this. They're offering a 20-year tax abatement to repurpose obsolete office into residential, and in exchange they're meeting some of their affordable housing goals. So we like what the district has done on this strategy. I would also suggest that the county play to its strengths as a life science and hospitality industry hub. For example, the county could consider offering tax incentives to attract life science companies to move into urban nodes like Bethesda. So think about the areas like Bethesda that offer the amenities and quality of life features where people want to work and they want to live. So bringing life science into urban markets and attracting more hospitality-oriented companies will heal downtown markets, like Bethesda, which are really suffering today. So then lastly, I think just in terms of the mindset, of Montgomery County, it needs to be seen as a business-friendly county that's working hard to attract new companies and grow the job base. The county's done a terrific job with the life science sector. However, my sense is there has not been a robust effort to attract technology or professional services companies into the county. There's really got to be a long-term commitment to this effort, and it should be done with the public sector working closely with the private sector. You need to give companies a reason to choose Montgomery County over our low-cost, neighboring counties in Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carr. And I think I truly appreciate your remarks, and you were absolutely correct when you're talking about especially changing the culture in Montgomery County, especially among government workers. We need to have a yes culture, especially if you're working in DPS, HHAs, one of the many agencies where you're dealing directly with potential companies moving in. If there's an obstacle, it's not you telling them you cannot do this. It's telling them, let's figure this out and how can we make this happening. So that's key. We're gonna go to our next panelist, who's also virtual, Mr. Rocky Fried. Is he on? There you go.
Yeah, Rocky Freed.
There
Good
you go.
morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present today. I'll try not to be too repetitive. I am a partner and the head of real estate at Fairlawn Capital Management. We're based in San Francisco, California, so I'm pretty far away. That's my excuse. I'm probably the least qualified person related to Montgomery County experience at this meeting, but I'll do my best to provide insights we've gained from our national real estate portfolio. As others have said, I think that work from home is a permanent condition. Employees want more balance in their lives. And despite recent return to office mandates from the likes of Amazon and Facebook, this trend will never be fully reversed. Many market pundits have indicated there will be a 25% plus reduction in office utilization. I think that's on the low end. Many lower end office jobs, such as call centers, have proven to be effective, working from home, affording employees a higher quality lifestyle and saving employers significant expenditures on office rent. I'm not saying that office is dead. I'm just saying that the demand is permanently diminished. Long commutes are a thing of the past. Office will have a role for many companies, but it's going to be more related to training, community, and higher end strategic collaborations. Suburban locations will definitely benefit from the work-life balance. What office and office buildings are going to win in this new era, well-located, highly amenitized town centers are the winners. They've held on to their occupancy the best throughout the pandemic. Occupancies in these mixed-use projects are trending in the right way post-COVID. Employees want to live and work and play close to home. They want to go home and see their dog. Experiential retail and convenience are key. Large floor plate B office buildings are in secondary locations with large parking fields and no on-site food and beverage are the clear losers in this new world order. Tenants want modern, collaborative, flexible, well-located space. Incumbent landlords historically have had large retention advantages, but this has gone away as downsizing and rethinking of office needs often make tenants relocating a better option. Alternative uses is something everyone's talked about today. I don't think that this is the panacea for everything. We have been episodic life science investors, including in Montgomery County, and believe in the long-term value proposition of the space. However, there is at present a dearth of capital for these nascent companies, which will spill over into weak real estate demand. Furthermore, significant supply has come online and is continuing to come online in the life science sector. The next few years in life science will be bumpy, and the cost to retrofit historical office buildings into life science buildings are non-economic in the current environment. Montgomery County is better positioned than most to capture any viable conversions, however. My suggestions are to cut red tape, look at employer retention and attraction benefits, and make sure your cost structures are in line with surrounding counties. Ultimately, location matters, but people will travel a bit for ease of completion and cost benefits. Lastly, regarding office to residential conversions, this is not a solution. Very few office buildings have the right depths for these transformations to be cost effective. In suburban areas, the more likely outcome is demolition, followed by mixed-use ground-up construction, providing appropriate zoning, speed to market, thoughtful planning, low impact fees, and taxes while creating live, work, and play, not always necessarily at huge densities, is the way to repurpose obsolete suburban office locations, to rebuild tax base and attract and retain jobs. Not every site is going to be a 10 out of 10 on a walk score, but creating mini villages is what employers and employees want. Making it affordable, time efficient, and accessible is a great role for government. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your remarks. Before I turn it to my colleagues, I'm going to go by the order that I have received requests. We're going to start with Councilmember Lorian Sells. First question, then Council President Evan Glass. And I'm making the assumption Marilyn Balcon will also have a few questions. But before they start, I would just say that we're going to take every comment that has been said and the ones that are going to come soon. And I'm going to work with it's great that we have the Small Business Center and representatives here. I see the county executives reps here in the back, and I see the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation is also here. We're going to follow up, put a work project together with ideas based on the discussion that we just had and the one that we're about to have, and then come back to the committee and see how we can move forward. Because the last thing I need or want is to just have a briefing about this how bad the office market is and not do anything. That will be a waste of time. You're wasting your time and my time. So we're gonna come up with a plan, and we're gonna send it around for people to review it. Okay, so first question, Councilmember Lorianne Sells.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also wanted to acknowledge the planning department that's here. I know that permitting was mentioned quite a few times about streamlining, so I'm glad that we have all the stakeholders here. And just want to thank everyone for the briefing, the data, and also from our business community. We're always hoping to hear feedback and recommendations on how we can do things better, but given the market constraints and the environment that we are in, those we're going to have to be innovative in how we are attracting this new business sector. The city of Gaithersburg is the biotech corridor of the region, and we're hoping that we can continue to grow from that region and some of the best practices that they've used to attract and retain and grow that corridor across the region. This has been really helpful to think about how we're going to repurpose some of these buildings, and even thinking about the economic constraints for the conversions are just another barrier to how we're going to repurpose these vacant buildings. And I know we mentioned what's happening in Virginia, but I'm wondering if we've looked at any other neighboring jurisdictions. I know the Frederick is growing their biotech region. I know I'm not sure about Prince George's County and how they're doing with their office space as well. So I don't know if there's any information you can provide there. I know that there's some policy changes and incentive packages that you've mentioned, so I'm looking forward to hearing from our Economic Development Corporation to further discuss how we can address these challenges. But are there any opportunities for us to think about co-working spaces? A lot of the small businesses are looking for spaces, and we have these big buildings, corporations, and I know that even during the pandemic we had conversions happening where people were retrofitting their buildings to accommodate smaller businesses. We know that there's a need for opportunities for collaboration, so even if we're unable to do the full conversion to residential, have we looked at what that would cost to accommodate smaller workspaces? Have we talked about lowering the rent for tenants? Any incentive packages that you've offered tenants to bring them back into the office? And I believe it was on The Economist or NPR this morning about the new environment that corporations are having to create to bring people back into the office space. And so just wanted to see if you can talk more specifically about those. Thank you.
Well, Lorianne, with regard to the incentive packages that are being offered to tenants to lure them back, it's a battle between building owners to see, it's an arms race to see who can provide the most free rent, reduced rent. Construction money is a big thing because tenants coming back to the office want it built new to bring their employees back. And so a lot of times it's the owner that wakes up that morning the hungriest that wins the deal because they're offering the most concessions. And that's why I discussed during my testimony about the possibility of funds available for owners to perform construction, because there's a huge amount of money going into these deals just to get a tenant to come to your building. And they're competing regionally, so they're competing with buildings oftentimes in Northern Virginia and in Prince George's County and in Frederick County. And the cost to build shared office space we look at a company like WeWork, who is failing miserably. Their model is to do exactly that, build big, beautiful, amenitized spaces, but that comes with a cost. And many smaller tenants would love to be there and sit in that town hall room and drink their free coffee, but at the end of the day, it's easier for them to stay in their basement.
I see Mr. Carr has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to respond quickly to the question. So a couple things. I think when you look around the region for the best model so far on repurposing office to residential, as I mentioned in my remarks, I would look at DC. And what DC is doing is they're offering a 20-year tax abatement for the conversion of obsolete office into residential. And in exchange for that, they're requiring it's a choice, either 10% of the units have to be affordable at 60% of MFI, or 18% of the units have to be made available at 80% of MFI. And without incentives like that, the economics to, convert an existing failed office building into residential really don't work. So this is not a, economic benefit for developers. It's actually what's needed to get anything done. And I concur with the comments around co-working. I think the business has a lot of potential, but its current structure really doesn't work. So the co-working companies sign long-term leases, and then they turn around and rent their space on a short-term basis, and that model doesn't work. So I think we're likely to see WeWork go into bankruptcy or otherwise, very, very soon. And they're the biggest player in that space. And then the last point about amenities, the best buildings are winning. There's no question about that. So, we're very proud of our Wilson office building we built at 7272 Wisconsin. So we delivered during the pandemic in 2021, and we were 100% leased. And, the reason for that is that, we offer our customers a really unique experience with amazing amenities, great rooftop, great retail on the ground floor. So I think that's the future of office. You've got to create really unique projects with, a great quality of life, and they'll be successful. But it's really hard to take an older building and do that. So I think you're going to see the market split where the best buildings do just fine, and older buildings are likely going to fail and unfortunately go back to the bank, and will have to be converted to something else. But that's the market today.
Thank you so much for that. I yield.
Thank you. And I'm just going to remind folks that we have a second panel after this. Council President Evan Glass.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you all for the presentation. And Mr. Ali and Ms. Michelson, thank you for the packet. So, a lot to unpack here. And I appreciate the brain trust that you've assembled, people who do this day in and day out and have been doing it for decades. So thank you for sharing your perspectives. I'll start with my thoughts on the federal workforce, which we've talked about various presentations and comments. And what I've just seen is that about 1/3 of federal employees are going back into the office, depending on agencies and departments. And Montgomery County was one of the 23 regional jurisdictions that signed a letter to President Biden encouraging more back to office engagement. And so we know that not only will help the market, but it will help with the street life and the nightlife and the public safety and our metro system and public transit, all of which feeds into a good business environment, as you've all articulated, right? There's a holistic approach. The concern that you've raised and that now has me concerned is that utilization rate, which is clearly the canary in the coal mine. Not much has been spoken of it. We're just looking at the vacancy rate. So thank you for elevating that, something that we'll continue looking at, although the long-term readout is not favorable. We at least know what the target is, and we need to keep our mind on that. Yeah, and I was intrigued also at the conversation about Trophy and Class A, but Mr. Metzroth, as a proprietor within a lot of Class B space here, and if I did my math on the pie chart correctly, about 40% of the office space here in Montgomery County is Class B. Could you share with us who are your tenants, right? If 40% of Montgomery County office space is Class B, there's a demand for it. And we know the Fortune 500 companies that want to come here want to either build their own space or rent a lot of Trophy or Class A space. But there's a story to be told about the Class B space too. Can you tell their story?
Yeah, absolutely. By far our biggest tenant in Montgomery County actually is NIH. We own a building that's 250,000 square feet on Executive Boulevard.
Could you lean in a little bit further?
We own a building that's about 250,000 square feet on Executive Boulevard, backs up right next to Pike and Rose. For the past, call it 20 years, NIH had a full building lease on that building. About 2 years ago, they reduced their footprint to half. So that is still very much our biggest tenant. Other than that, it's local businesses that candidly either need to do business in Montgomery County because they're attached to government contracts, or they're mom and pop startups that have had success and expanded, and we rely on our personal relationships with those tenants to work with them to ensure that they do have what they need, and it fits the economic puzzle for both of us. So it's a spectrum.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's what I assumed it was, right? It's our solid middle-class entrepreneurs, probably some lawyers and some doctors and accountants and others who are making a living in the community where they're raising their family.
That's right.
And where they've chosen to be. And so we need to clearly have a conversation about how to encourage more and retain more, but we can't lose sight of the homegrown businesses and what their needs might be. Mr. Sullivan, I saw you raise your hand.
I did, thank you. I just want to make the point that Montgomery County's tenant base resembles what your financial advisor would advise you to have as your own personal investments, which is diversification. So we have life science, which we could say is fast growth. We have bonds, which would be our federal agencies that occupy space here in the county. We have Fortune 200 companies in the form of Lockheed Martin and Marriott, whose global headquarters are here. And then I think the most dynamic is what Ryan just walked you through, which is local services companies that are organic to our county. So we're not heavily weighted to, say, defense like Northern Virginia, or technology like San Francisco. So we benefit greatly from our diversification of tenants, which has helped us insulate from being in an even worse position than we would be otherwise.
Thank you for elevating that. Another issue that has been raised, I think, by everybody is permitting and the processes to build and to operate. And it is one of the main reasons why at the start of this council I really wanted there to be a standalone economic development committee within which MCEDC would be, but also the Department of Permitting Services, recognizing the relationship between DPS and economic development. And there is actually a work group underway right now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, the work group with the planning department. I am looking at the chair, Mr. Harris, and leaders from the executive agencies. And I will be very candid in saying there were a lot of questions and concerns about the start of this work group and about power grabbing. And in my opinion, we needed a work group to work through these issues. Otherwise, without dialogue and without sitting around a table, none of these issues are going to be addressed. And by what I'm hearing from the executive side and from folks in planning, those conversations are being fruitful. And so I am hopeful at the conclusion of this work group in the coming months, there will be tangible steps to cut some red tape, to streamline processes. And so I am optimistic. I'm looking again at Mr. Chair to see a good landing of this plane because I am hopeful. Again, we know we need to do better, and having everybody around the table whose goal it is to do better is the first step. The last question I have, and this is a real question, conversions versus repurposing, right? So I picked up on the vernacular there. The proposal that's in DC, the 20-year abatement, it's not unprecedented here. I co-sponsored a bill in the last council to have a similar style abatement for residential construction that is built on metro stations, recognizing that we need more residential at metro stations. And there was concern among people in the community and the county executive that abatements weren't needed because it's valuable property, and so it would be built. And my reply was, well, if it's so valuable and so easy to build, why hasn't it been done? And so I was proud to support that effort. Clearly, we know that our budget is in a little different situation. You all saw what happened this year. You've referenced it. I can't predict what's going to happen next year, but as your building and property tax assessments start coming in, we'll have that conversation next year, and we'll see what we can do, because I'm a firm believer in that if we want more housing that is affordable, we need more housing. And so I will do everything I can to try and be creative, find models that work within our system, within our county, and within our budget. But I look forward to those conversations. And the last thing I just want to say is a comment. It's also been referenced the quality of life here and the business environment here. And not everything that has been referenced is within the jurisdiction of the Montgomery County Council. We are one county within a state that has 24 different jurisdictions, but we have a General Assembly and a governor, and there are things that have been referenced that come from high on and come down to us as well. But it is my hope that as you all continue talking with businesses around the country and sharing the virtue of the DC region, there are differences. I know that. There are differences in taxes, and there are differences in other types of regulation and fees. But Montgomery County is home to the most diverse communities in the country. We have among the best schools. We have among the highest paying jobs. We have some of the best healthcare outcomes. And yes, we support labor, and we support our working families. And I know it's a balancing act, but I find those to be virtues and reasons for people to want to come here and raise their families. And I know it's part of an ongoing conversation, but I think there are good things about what we have here and what we're trying to do. And we always have to be in conversation, but there are good things here in Montgomery County. And I look forward to continuing to talk and have conversations with you about that in the years ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Marilyn Balkin.
Thank you. There is a lot to unpack here, and thank you all for coming, and thank you for being here. So I do just want to piggyback a little bit on what President Glass said. Yes, of course, we know that there are really great things in Montgomery County, and that's why we're all here. That's why you all have made your homes here for lifetimes for many of you. I think what's important is we've heard many of these things before in terms of business climate, red tape, certainly streamlining permitting, and I think that your jobs are to sell the county, and I'm sure you do that very, very well. But our job is to listen to you, right? So we've asked this panel, these panelists to come here, and they've shared with us why they hit obstacles. So our job now is to listen and take that to heart. And I think that business climate is one of those vague issues that the business community has been talking about for years, and it's harder to solve than incentives or tax abatements or looking at quality buildings, trophy buildings. But as a committee, I think that that's what we need to do. And I appreciate what the chair said at the very beginning, that we can't have this panel and then tick the box and go away. So I look forward to, and I know that the four of us will work together to come up with some concrete plans, I hope. So some of the issues that I wanted to just briefly talk about, I know we're crunched for time. So I think that the issue of conversions is very interesting from the perspective of our zoning. And so, and I know that, with Thrive 2050, there's been a little bit of a shift, but very often we have this balance of commercial, residential, retail to make a whole community. And we've always looked at the commercial sector, the commercial zoning, as jobs. And so this remote movement to remote work is changing that paradigm. So office space doesn't equal jobs because we have so many people working from home. So I think that we need to look at how we do that in a way, how we create commercial spaces in a way that supports both in-office jobs, but also people who are working from home, and how that works from a shared space, not a WeWork shared space, but a company that sheds square footage in that kind of space. So I think that, I'm glad that the planning board is here because I think that the whole zoning of commercial space and looking at how commercial space interacts with residential space is really intriguing, and I think it's something that we need to take a hard look at. So I think that's an issue. Totally agree with Council President on the utilization. I mean, that really is, we're all used to looking at vacancy rates, but you're the ones that really have the anecdotal information about utilization. And so that is something that we need to really look at for future. And the length of leases and when those leases are coming up, I think, is something that we need to pay close attention to. And we haven't really talked about the impact on the micro local economy, the restaurant industries and the retail industries. We've heard that here locally in Rockville about coming back because our staff walk across the street and go to lunch. They haven't done that in many years. And so I think it all kind of works together. Also intrigued by the tax abatement for lower income housing. I think, thank you, Mr. Carr, for bringing that up. I think that that's something, again, we need to look at how does that fit with our zoning, because these are, especially the I forget who mentioned it, the issue of, and we've known this for years, the campus-style office with the sea of parking, that is the thing of the past. But that's also not where we want to put residents, because residents don't want to live in campus style away from amenities. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing. We're supposed to be asking questions. We're doing more statements than questions. Talent. So I think this is really important. We can capture the needs of our businesses who are here and come here because we have relationships with them and we can ask what their needs are. But we don't have access to the ones that got away, right? Because we don't have a relationship with them, but you do. And so is there a mechanism specifically on talent and skill sets that we can, whether it's through MCEDC, most likely through MCDC, the interface of, for if when a company doesn't come here because they don't see a talent pool, how can we get that information, to know that information, to make sure that we can prepare for the future? So I don't know what that communication is like. So if somebody can address that, and I know that we have MCDC coming up, but that communication back and forth, so we know why, real time, why businesses don't choose to come here. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that at all. Everyone's saying no, no, no.
I'll just say that it's public information in terms of occupation data. Mm-hmm. And so when we're doing national search selection, we'll tap into the publicly available data. So for example, I mentioned manufacturing. It's great to have PhDs, but in manufacturing locally, you also need lab technicians. And so we actually have the ability to just tap into the public information to see in each jurisdiction around the country how Montgomery County compares to others for that specific job. Mm-hmm. And then it gets ranked.
So if you have somebody that comes in and it's like, okay, we don't have that, do you convey that to MCEDC to say, you know, we're getting a lot of we're getting a lot of no's because we don't have this talent pool?
Probably not enough. It's usually too late, or it's within the RFP that goes out. But that really goes hand in hand with the public-private collaboration, and I agree with you. There needs to be better communication on that front.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So, and that's something we can talk about in the next panel. Yeah.
I would have two observations or responses to what you shared with us, Madam Council Member. One of which is, much to my surprise and perhaps my fellow panelists, there has been success in repurposing suburban office parks, and we need to look no further than Rock Spring Park, where ECON Young and Taub, I was shocked that they took office land and constructed very high-end townhomes. And the good folks at EYA will tell you that's one of their most successful projects. Then directly across the street, and this was a massive win, and I think we should be promoting more, Marriott moves out of an 800,000 square foot battleship of a building, which could, I would have predicted, would still be sitting there vacant. Mm-hmm. They moved to downtown Bethesda and purpose-built a new headquarters. We've addressed that. But now that building, the battleship's being torn down, and high to mid-rise, probably high-rise, would be qualified for this county. Senior housing is being built there, so nobody could have predicted that. So I think that's a win for the county that needs to be more publicized. And then my other observation deals with Montgomery College, which is a top 10 community college in the country. I believe the most recent rankings had them at number 9. I'm on the foundation board there. Montgomery College is open to insight and guidance on what sorts of programs they should be having for instruction that the panelist clients want to hire those people. So are some of their programs antiquated or not meeting the needs of the prospects that are cycling through Montgomery County looking to occupy. I don't know the answer to that. I have a suspicion now. So perhaps more collaboration with Montgomery College.
Okay, thanks. I think that's something that we can look at together with MCDC and with you. So thank you all very much.
And I love that you mentioned Rock Spring. I worked on that master plan when I was on the planning board and approved the EYA development, and you're right on target, very successful. And then with Montgomery College, you'll see them in one of our sessions in the future, especially on the sports industry, making sure that we're building that talent in that particular industry that we really don't talk about in Montgomery County. So stay tuned. We have a last very quick question from Councilmember Lukey.
Promise, this will be quick, and it's right on the heels of what you were just saying. So, and I know Mr. Tompkins is aware of this because we talked about this, oh gosh, over a year ago. But one of the things that's really challenging for me to see is where we as a county fit in the overall dual enrollment profile for our students at MCPS. And it's known, I can point to an article, a longitudinal study examining dual enrollment as a strategy for easing the transition to college and career for emerging adults, right? Having dual enrollment prepares you for success in the workforce and in higher ed. Our state average for the 2020-2021 dual enrollment figure is 7.2%. Our neighboring jurisdictions, PG, came in just higher than MoCo. Howard County was at almost 14%, Carroll at 11.5%, and Frederick County at 15.25%. Montgomery County's number, 3.5%. That's it for our participants in dual enrollment. And I think that's significant, especially when you're talking about being able to determine by NAICS codes and everything else, where are our graduates going, what industries are they going in, what's the pipeline looking for, that is incredibly significant in the overall development of business and attracting business to this county to fill up all these spaces. But my question is, what is the time or length of the financial agreements for commercial real estate? What is the average financing agreement length? Because you raised that as an indicator of why redevelopment in certain aspects is not financially feasible and doesn't pencil out.
The answer that'll make me sound like a lawyer is that it depends.
That's okay. I am a lawyer.
There you go. It depends on the investment strategy of
Sure.
the developer themselves. If it's somebody local like Wilco, we're looking to repurpose it and still have a vehicle that allows us to hold it long term. So, whether if we're looking to repurpose an office building into residential, we're looking at probably a 5-year construction loan, and then we would have to refinance into a permanent loan that we would typically look anywhere from, as little as 15 years, as much as 30.
Right.
But that's probably not even available in today's economy. So,
Right.
Other developers who are more speculative builders, I won't speculate on them, but it's different across the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're talking, it can be anywhere from, if you're talking about the 15-year mortgage, if you will, post 5-year construction loan, to a 20-year to a 35-year range.
And again, it all depends on financial feasibility. So if interest rates are in a high environment, it's probably going to be on the lower end or on the shorter side.
Right.
And we'll still continue to try to time it so that we can eventually structure a longer term horizon.
Right, because you'll refinance it when the interest rates drop, just like homeowners.
That's right.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this great group of panelists. We truly appreciate sharing your wisdom and your experience so we can find those solutions to move us forward. Stay tuned with that report that we're going to be putting together to follow up on this discussion. With that, I'm going to ask the second panel to please come, and Mr. Bill Tompkins. Man, we have a lot of questions for you, especially after this. We're going to be talking about business attraction, and I'm eager to learn from you. What's your relationship with our brokers? How often do you talk to them? All that great stuff. I hope you are ready. And we're going to take, let me see the time. It's 11:13. I'm going to try to be done with this panel by 12. I know it's half an hour after usual time, but we're running late, and this is very important, so I hope it's okay. Okay, that's okay? Okay, perfect. Thank you. No. Okay, better. Ms. Marlene, would you like to kick
I'm
us off?
just going to turn this right over to MCEDC. They have a presentation for you, so we'll let them get started.
Thank you. Go ahead.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and as you can tell from the earlier panel, we have a lot to cover, not just today, but throughout the fall. The panel before us touched on a number of issues that I think are critically important. So when we look at economic development, expansion of existing businesses is really important. Retention of existing businesses is our #1 priority. But attraction is what gets all of the excitement and the sizzle, because it means there's something new coming into the market. So as we go through these next sets of sessions, I think the work group will be important, but we're happy to come back to dive into more detail, because I think that's what's going to be required in terms of how we move the needle consistently. Today,
and just a quick reminder that we're going to be focusing on business retention on October 9.
Correct.
So go ahead.
Yes, so starting out with business attraction, I have two of my colleagues here, Prayas Nupani, who joined us within the last year and is an expert in that area. He joined us from the District of Columbia, so he knows the region very well. And Brad Stewart, our Senior VP of Business Development. Prayas will do the presentation, and we'll all answer questions.
All right, thank you, Bill. Good morning, everyone. It's really exciting to be here, and this is certainly the right time for us to be talking about business attraction efforts. Companies are still trying to decide what does a remote work policy look like, so I think this is definitely the right time for us to be reminding them why Montgomery County is a good place to do business. So with that said, I'm going to jump into the presentation. As you are aware, we have been tasked to attract businesses within certain strategic sectors, which includes life sciences, technology, nonprofit headquarters, hospitality, real estate, corporate headquarters that are not within our strategic sectors. We've also been tasked to foster entrepreneurship within those particular industries, as well as supporting women-owned, minority-owned, and underserved businesses within the target industries. And one of the ways we do that is we have a dedicated staff that focuses on each of these industries, and their goal is to understand the current ecosystem, but also be in tune with what's happening outside of Montgomery County, what's happening in that sector, what companies are growing, and creating a plan to attract those companies here. So within our strategic industries, we do a variety of things to attract companies. One of the key ways of doing that is attending industry trade shows. As you're aware, we attend trade shows like Select USA and Bio on a regular basis. And as an organization, we have been highly selective on what trade shows to attend, because we want to make sure that any conferences that we go to, we are in front of the decision makers. And based on that particular because of that, there are a couple of the ones that we have gone on a regular basis, and these provide us with a valuable insights on what's happening in the industry, then which we bring back to Montgomery County and try to use that to strengthen our current ecosystem. And in addition to that, the trade shows are also important because we get to sit down with the decision makers on one-on-one basis, and we use this to nurture the relationship over the years. So as you know, economic development is all about relationships, and for us to meet with a company and for them to think about expansion in Montgomery County, it takes a number of years. So for us, going to a trade show is really just the starting point where we meet with them, greet with them, help them understand the value proposition of why they should locate here, and nurture that relationship over the years so that when they are thinking about expansion, they think about Montgomery County. And in addition to that, we're also constantly reaching out to companies that are now located here. We use various sources like PitchBook, CoStar to look at companies that are expanding, companies that have recently been acquired, companies that have recently merged, and reach out to them to say, hey, if you are thinking about expanding, we are here to support you, and we can provide the assistance that you might need to grow in the area. Real estate is also another big component for us. We are in regular conversation with brokers. Some of the folks that were here today, we talk to them all the time about what's happening in the industry, but also to help them understand the resources they have. So for example, I was just talking to one of the brokers today, and he mentioned he wasn't aware of the MOVE program. So that's the kind of conversation we have continuously throughout the year to let them know that we're here as a resource, and there are programs in the county that will help you close the deals. So that happens on the broker engagement side. We also attend trade shows on a regular basis. So last year we attended ICSC in Las Vegas, where we met with a lot of brokers that are operating outside of Montgomery County to understand what sort of deal flow are they seeing, what are some of the concessions that are being offered, and what do we need to do to be competitive for companies to come into this area. And in those particular conferences, we also talk to the brokers that are in the market and connect them with brokers that are outside, so that there's that cross collaboration, and when companies are looking to expand, they think about Montgomery County. And one of the valuable real estate sections that we focus on is site selector engagement. So out of everything that we do, site selectors are consultants that help global companies with their location strategies. Almost 40% of some of the larger investments in the U.S. involve site selector consultants. And over the course of last couple of years, MCEDC has done a good job of maintaining relationship with these site selectors. But this year particularly, we're trying to be hyper aggressive in terms of making sure that these site selectors are aware of who we are as a county and the benefits that we offer. And I'll touch a little bit on how we're doing that in the next couple of slides. So you heard about this earlier today on what site selectors evaluate when they are looking at a site and when they are working on a project. So one of the key things they look at is logistics, if they have access to customers, and how the local ecosystem is within the industry of their client. They also look at infrastructure such as ports, railroads, interstate, and airports. We're fortunate that we have 3 world-class airports in the area, so that does presents us in a favorable condition when we compete with other areas. But the fact that our office market is very small sometimes presents as a disadvantage as well. The second is workforce. Access to talent has been the #1 driving force for site selection over the course of the last 5 years. So site selectors look at if you have the current workforce, as well as if you have educational institutions, universities that can train the workforce. And lastly, they look at the cost to not only hire the workforce, but also retain the workforce as well. Third is real estate. We talked a little bit about Class A building, trophy building. So that's some of the things that they really care about. So a lot of the site selectors are not necessarily thinking about Class B. They're mostly only interested in Class A and trophy space at the moment. And if we have that available in the county, and if not, do we have land that is available to build? Next is business tax climate. The site selectors are looking at overall tax environment, our tax rates, the tax burden to their client, but they're also looking at total fees and permit requirements. So in general, all across not only the county, but also what they have to do in the state as well. Economic incentives, I think Pete mentioned earlier that it is just the cherry on top, and that is what we have experienced. Economic incentives are important, but that is not the driving force in site selection. However, having a competitive economic incentive is always helpful in the final phases of the deal. Lastly, regulatory efficiency. And this has become extremely important in the last couple of years, where businesses, once they decide to locate in a particular area, they want to get started as soon as possible, right? So the time it takes for them to sign the lease to get the use and occupancy permit is extremely important. And if we say that this takes 6 months, if we're able to deliver in 6 months, then that presents a very favorable environment. And often with site selectors, it's all about relationships. So once you get one deal done with them, their experience in that particular county is what makes them want to come back to you again so that you can compete in projects. So one of the things that I mentioned time and time again is relationship. So our site selector strategy is really based on that. It's based on engagements. It's based on constantly reminding them why Montgomery County is a good place to do business. So there are conferences where these site selectors come almost 4 or 5 times a year. We have developed relationship with the conference organizers, and when we go to these conferences, we're sitting down with the site selectors and showcasing our value proposition, showcasing our assets, talking about our economy, highlighting some of the major employers we have, talking about our quality of life, so that they understand that we have everything that a major corporation might need. We also constantly send them newsletters as well as email and talk to them through LinkedIn. And a key example of that is if there's a major expansion that happens in Montgomery County, we'll reach out to them so that they know that there is economic activity in the region. So the more that you keep letting them know what's happening in the area, the more chances that when they are working on a project, they will give us a chance to apply for the RFI. And lastly, FAM tours. So we are planning on bringing multiple site selectors to Montgomery County in the spring of next year, so that they can see the vibrant ecosystem that we have of life sciences companies, meet with them directly to learn more about why they decided to open the business here and what environment has enabled them to grow, but also so that they can see our quality of life and visit the parks that we have and other amenities as well. Just wanted to give you an example of how we talk about Montgomery County. So access to talent has been something that we have talked about throughout the session today, and we constantly remind people why we have the talent that they require to do business here. So as a matter of fact, just over 34% of the adults who are 25 and over have master's degrees. So we're a highly educated county, and that's something that we constantly keep reminding the site selectors as well as decision makers. Similarly, we do have top regional universities and local educational institutions, and this is something that we've tried to share with the decision makers, C-suites, as well as site selectors to let them know that even though there might not be talent right now, we do have the institutions that are going to be producing talent in the future. Quality of life, and this has become extremely important in site selection, mainly because retaining talent went from being something they would consider to the topmost importance, and this has been much more important since the pandemic as well. So part of our message to them is, if you want a place where employees want to live, work, and play, Montgomery County is the right place, because we do have some of the amenities that people look for, which includes our education. So I know, Councilmember, you talked a little bit about how competitive we are in schools and education, and that's something that we relate to the site selector community on a regular basis. And lastly, diversity. DEI and ESG has been one of the most important things that have come out in the last 5 years in site selection. So every single project that we're currently working on does have a DEI component to that. So we're fortunate that 3 of the most diverse communities are located in Montgomery County, and that benefits us when we are applying for projects, and that's something that we share on a regular basis as well. And lastly, our business development efforts are supported by our marketing team. When we go to a trade show, they have targeted ads that's focused on why Montgomery County is a good place to do business. So whenever we meet with the executive or a site selector, it's not the first time they are hearing about Montgomery County, since they have already been engaged in other ways. Likewise, we do run various op-eds in different economic development magazines like Site Selection Magazine, Area Development, focusing on particular industry, the strengths we have within those industries, and why this is a good place to do business. And here are just some assets that we have utilized in the past to promote Montgomery County. So with that, I would welcome any questions that you might have, and really appreciate you providing us an opportunity to talk about business attraction.
I really thank you for that presentation, but I left with more questions than anything else. This felt like a presentation that is very generic. I want to see data. I want to see you talked about trade shows. How many trade shows have you attended? What have you produced in those shows? How many people you meet with? You also talk about different strategies. You have the trade shows, you have the meetings with a site consultants that you meet with. Which one is more productive? Those are the details that we need to understand in order for us to really move forward and see what else as a county we should be investing in. So do you bring that data? How many times you talk to brokers? In the previous panel, they talk about the importance of trainings and the importance of affordability. And that wasn't mentioned here. And so I'm actually feel worried. Maybe I'm the only one. Data. We can't just talk with a narrative here and telling us, you know, we're doing all these things without showing us what you're producing. That's what we need.
Council Member Gonzalez, Fanny Gonzalez, yes, we collect all of that data. We do put it in our quarterly and our semi-annual and annual reports down to type of contact. We did not think to bring that with us to you today, but we'll share all of that. We keep it current, not only in terms of type of contact, but by industry. The list of contacts that we've made, whether it's in person, whether it is a sales call, all of that is collected regularly, and we do evaluate that.
What's your target in terms of attracting businesses here? What's your strategy? Where are you going?
Sure.
That's what we came here for. We specifically named this session Business Attraction. What are you doing on that end?
Sure. I can talk about the site sector conferences that we're going to. So this year we're going to 3 different site sector conferences. So there's a site sector conference called Site Selection Guild, and this is a guild members. They have just about 50 site selectors members who are in charge of bringing companies throughout the country. And we attend that conference with the hope of meeting with 20 to 25 different site selectors that are within our strategic sectors. And in those meetings, we talk to them about what is happening in Montgomery County, what are some of the benefits of locating here.
Can you give me an example of a previous trade show that you have attended? How many companies you talked to? How many of them have actually moved to Montgomery County? And what was it that made them think, Montgomery County is the place for us to move in? What is that thing that really caught their attention?
Yeah, so Brad Stewart with the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. So I'll try and answer that. The answer is there's not a simple answer. It's literally all of these things that we have to do. And most of our journeys to getting a company to locate here are both multifaceted and multi-year. So whether it's our relationships with site selectors who may be working on a specific project at that time or may not. As Preyas was talking about, our job is really to make sure that when they do have a project, they include us in that opportunity to respond to that RFP, to have an opportunity to compete. That's one type of thing that we work on. To answer your question about that, not with numbers, but experience, the challenges we usually have when it comes to site selectors who are looking for big projects is usually twofold. It's one, either we don't have a facility that will work for them. It's not uncommon for them to look for property first, and this is a county that's very property constrained. There's a very limited number of empty greenfield spaces for people to build in Montgomery County. Sometimes if there's not property available, they'll reconsider what they're working on and reconfiguring it to a way that'll work differently. A good example of that is a project we worked on with Millipore Sigma, who's building a beautiful new headquarters here in Montgomery County at Treville, a property next to the universities at Shady Grove. That originally was a project where they were looking for about 20 acres of greenfield property to build a single story and a half manufacturing space. Instead, now they're building several hundred square feet in a multi-story building. So these are multifaceted conversations. When we go to conferences, sometimes they're the first conversation we have with the business. Sometimes they're the 7th conversation we have with the business. Most of those times at conferences is an opportunity to expand our network outside of this county and outside of this region. When I'm at conferences like BIO, which is one of the 2 ones we focus on in life sciences, probably 80% of the businesses we talk to there are not from this region. They're either from other places inside the United States where we're trying to market. In many cases, this is marketing, not sales. Market Montgomery County and get them interested in it and understanding the workforce we have here, the type of businesses we have here, or their foreign countries where we're trying to attract more of their peers here to Montgomery County. So I think for us, it's a pretty good combination both of marketing and sales that we do in business development, and it's also many of the projects we work on are multi-year in nature.
So let me just elaborate on that. Take bio as an example. I think 3 or 4 of us went this past year. We met with, our target was to meet with about 50 very specific companies. We had an entire list of who was coming, and so we profiled them based on which industries and sub-industries within life sciences made the most sense. We did both individual and group meetings, and I'm aware off the top of my head of 4 companies who have both, they're almost all international, not companies here in the US, who are now in the process of both finishing visits or establishing relationships to open offices. So for each conference that we go to, we do have a very specific strategy to look at what the opportunity is, and then we measure both short-term and long-term what that payoff is coming back. Each industry is also very different. So we talked about the 6 strategic industries. They operate very differently from each other, and so the strategy for each one has to be specifically related to that. You talked about statistics. I will share this with you. This will come out in our annual report. Last fiscal year, for net new business leases from companies coming here, there was about 700,000 square feet of leased space. So we track also the number of jobs. There were about 500 jobs that were created from new businesses coming here. And by the way, attraction is very, very difficult. You heard everything that was talked about in the earlier panel, both in terms of headwinds, not necessarily as much because of return to work policies, because this has been a pattern for a long time before 2020, and will continue to be as we recover in terms of what attracts companies here, whether it is one of the 7 elements on, I think it's slide number 7. And we can go through each of those to tell you what we think the challenges are and the opportunities that work best for us.
Can you list the top 3 issues that the broker community has shared with you that they need help with in order for them to sign leases with companies to attract them? Top 3 issues that you hear from them.
So let me separate this out. Attracting a company that's not in Montgomery County to Montgomery County?
This is whole attraction.
Yeah.
This session is on business attraction. That's it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the top 3 things. And the first one has changed slightly, but that's generally a physical place to locate, whether that's raw land or an existing building that is purposed for or can be repurposed for what they're using it for. That is, in life sciences, has changed dramatically for the better in the last 3 years. We actually have not only product available, but a pipeline of product which didn't exist before. Second is workforce. That's very challenging for us. If you look in the biotech or life sciences space, we're don't have adequate workforce for the companies that exist here today, even to expand, much less to attract new companies here. And the third for that is certainty to time to occupancy. And so that was one of the points that Preyas made. It's fine to tell a company that it's going to take 6 months for them to occupy the building, but their experience turns out to be 18 months. They're incredibly disgruntled forever and always. And it's that type of feedback that gets back to the site selector community and others, which cause them simply to not offer us opportunities to compete for businesses like that. So they compare us to the people who are here who work in the site selector business, which is where a lot of attraction projects come from. It's a small community. They talk constantly with each other. They share information. Regulatory burden is a significant issue, but I don't want to lose track of the fact that it's also the certainty. I come from the life sciences industry where I know the regulatory burden is very high. I'm also certain of what my time frame is to get approval for something. I think we struggle on both of those issues here.
So if you go back to Mr. Briskman, who talked about talent in particular, we have this access to the exact same databases that he uses, and we monitor that. We work with not just Montgomery College and USG on where those shortages are, but the reason you saw us have the other universities in the region is because you can't just count on those 2 educational institutions to deal with the shortfall. We also project out in terms of where we think there is going to be demand going forward over the next 10 years. And in some cases, you can work on changing the degrees that are focused on by the institutions here, but in other cases, what is really required is what was mentioned, giving people different skill sets as opposed to a PhD degree. As much as we talk about that, by the way, so many of those PhDs are behind closed walls. They are at NIH. And those PhDs are not necessarily going to come out from that closed wall to go work for a life sciences company. So it's both an opportunity, but it's also a challenge.
I'm going to open it up to committee members. I'm going to start from my right, Councilmember Marilyn Balkan.
Thank you. Let's stay on talent for a minute. So, as one of those PhDs that in the community, I think that we've been talking about talent for a long time, and I know that we have great partners with USG and with Montgomery College. And I just feel like we need to have and I know that in terms of trying to turn an ocean liner, it's very difficult for higher education to change curriculum readily. I mean, that's a very difficult thing to do, and particularly at universities at Shady Grove, because we have all the other institutions. They're the ones making the decisions as to what's going to be there. But I think that I am disappointed is too strong of a word. I do feel like we could be in better shape from a talent perspective, because I think that everybody in the county understands that talent is an issue, and I feel like the county leaders are committed to trying to solve that issue. So I think that that's something that we should focus on in terms of how do we close that gap. And then I'm also interested in the database of talent that everybody looks at. I think it would be worthwhile to take a really good look at that to see if the data reflected for Montgomery County is accurate. And is it possible that there is a categorization or a coding that we have more skill sets, but just not reflected in that database? I used that database a long time ago. So I think that that's just worth a look-see, because I just feel like when we look at the life science industry, and I know we have to be one of the top 5 locations in the country in terms of talent, anecdotally, and I just don't understand why we continue to say we don't have that talent. And I mean, you would know more than that. So, Mr. Stewart, if you could talk just a little bit about why we have such a big gap in life sciences skill sets.
Sure. So the database you're talking about used to be called JobsEQ. I think the current name is Burning Glass. It's changed names several times. Interestingly, we did a Montgomery County Economic Development as a research project for the University of Shady Grove. Probably it was the beginning of the year, so it's been 9 months ago now, to really look at that data and its impact here in Montgomery County for future jobs over the next 5 years or so, both in technology and life sciences. So Dr. Kadabian has that. I'm sure if you ask her, she'd be happy to share it with you. Yeah. I think the database is as good as databases are. Whenever you try and label people as the thing consistently, some of those things are going to be wrong. You do see that we have a high number, or what they actually use a word called location quotients, is the density of different job skill sets you have available in a county versus somewhere else. A 1 is equal to the national average. As an example, since my undergraduate degree is in microbiology in Montgomery County, we have a 10, which means we have 10 times the number of microbiologists as average across the United States. That doesn't mean they're available for work to you. That's what's missing from that piece of information. when you go and try and hire a microbiologist here, or almost any job, if you go look and talk to the major employers in life sciences here, not only is their time to hire significant, meaning these jobs stay open for 6 to 12 months at an average salary now of life sciences in the state of Maryland of $140,000 a year. There's not an excess of talent available. There's also a gap in what skill sets those employees have versus what the employer needs. So there's a gap in how effective those employees are, how much money the companies have to invest on top of their salaries to train them to be effective. That's quite challenging. The other thing we see is when we have manufacturers move into the area, they ask where their talent's going to come from, and quite honestly, it comes from their next door neighbor. So you see this trading of talent back and forth between companies at ever increasing salaries, but with not new talent coming in to that pipeline to soften that problem. So there have been suggestions made. I've mentioned to this committee before that the Maryland Tech Council has worked to stand up a group called BioHub Maryland to actually I sort of think of things as short, medium, and long term. Can you get MCPS to fix this problem tomorrow? Absolutely not. That's a 10-year problem. Can you do it sooner with a University of Montgomery College, maybe in a few years possibly? But that's an immediate term opportunity that the county hasn't acted upon yet. So probably at this time you'll see that Frederick County is already moving forward with implementing that to continue to improve the talent they have there and continue to grow. So I don't think it's sometimes lack of opportunity, sometimes it's lack of action.
I think to just add to that, though, the demand for life sciences is growing, which is a good thing, meaning there are more jobs and more jobs to fill. So you're chasing a number that's a good thing for Montgomery County, and that's why you're going to have a talent pipeline challenge, because it's not stagnant. It continues to grow. More companies are expanding here in that particular sector. But if you take technology, the talent drain across the region is a major, major issue, not just life sciences companies or high-tech companies. Everybody needs a good technology person, a good software developer. And so we're competing in a region where there's a shortage across the board, and that's not unique to Montgomery County. In terms of comparing these statistics, we look very carefully at how also other jurisdictions fare and what next codes they use to compare what they have versus what we do. So when we see that there is a difference, we go back and break out the next codes to see if there's a dramatic difference. I would say in general the trends are pretty much on, that we are not being misled by false information, but the shortages are still here. Are they unique to Montgomery County? I would say in some cases yes, but in most cases no. Our bigger problem is that our population growth in certain sectors is not where it needs to be, and our overall job base and workforce is not where it needs to be. And we've really got to make sure that as people retire here, that we replace those retirees, and we're not doing that, so that we're not providing a larger talent pipeline just looking at that number itself.
Okay, thanks. I think that's something that we want to focus on is and we have been. We just haven't solved it. So I think that we all need to do that. And I also think that certainty to market is something that we've talked about for a long time, and hopefully we'll have some changes coming up soon with this new task force that's looking at that. And just last thing, going back to the prior discussion, the repurposing buildings, and I think that we've been looking at that as just a renovation of a building. After today, I'm really looking at it as a demolition, rebuilding of buildings. Do we have a pipeline of of those kinds of properties that we think will come up for potential redevelopment? So when somebody comes to say, I know a lot of these are long-term because they're looking 2-3 years out when their lease is up somewhere around the country. It's possible that it's like the old Marriott building. We didn't know what was going to happen to it, but that was certainly ripe for demolition. Do we know what other areas might be?
I can answer that. Unless they submit an application to the planning department, we won't know. Is there a list? I see the acting director for the planning department here, Ms. Tanya Stern. Is it possible you can share the list of the? I mean, it will be on the pipeline. It's not guaranteed. When somebody submits a sketch plan, that doesn't mean that they're gonna actually do it. But maybe you can brief the committee on this.
Tanya Stern, Acting Planning Director from the Planning Department. We were just chatting. This is actually a really good question. It's something that we can take a look at with our research team. We definitely, we can certainly provide data on the applications that are coming through the process, but that covers lots of different types of projects. But it is an interesting question, and we can take a look at, whether or not we can kind of tease out what properties, office properties might be likely to be repurposed or converted for some other use. So we can certainly take a look at that.
Right, and I think that from the perspective of I don't need to know that information. The gentlemen that were here before. So I think that that's part of the communication of you might not have had an application yet, most likely. But if they have properties that they're thinking, we're not going to be able to lease this. We're going to look at repurposing. I think that that's a piece when we're talking about the future, not only for potential commercial sites, but also on the other arm of potential residential sites. So I think that we need to have a better communication, but thank you.
Sure, and if I can just add one other thing, I think another big piece of that is figuring out what metrics the property owners and brokers are looking at in terms of helping them decide whether or not these properties should come offline as office uses.
And realizing that a lot of what we're talking about is proprietary and wouldn't want to be public anyway. So thank you.
But anything that you can send to the committee, that would be great on this topic, okay? Thank you so much. Council President Glass.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Appreciate the comments and questions that you and Councilmember Balcom have asked. And so a lot of the thoughts I had, you two had addressed, but I'll just ask a straightforward question with regard to the presentation that we just had, kind of following the line of thought of Councilmember Balcom. As has been noted, the most important work of MCEDC is the outreach and retention. And the focus, which is very similar to the presentation we just had. And while we know that the outreach is the hardest part, right, getting people, getting organizations to come here, we need to focus a lot of our energy on the retention. So what is the relationship and what are the conversations that MCEDC is having with everybody who just presented on the prior panel and their associated agencies and businesses?
Sure. I guess we can all answer that. We work with just about everybody that you saw at this table and on the screen. The relationships vary. But I'll turn that over to Brad because he spends more time on that day to day than I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll collectively speak to it as the real estate community is an incredibly valuable resource for us. One, to be honest, they're the most valuable network of information that we have. Their job is literally to know what every potential business is going to do and those sorts of things. So we have I think a really good communication with all of them back and forth to share information, understand what's going on. We work with them all very frequently. If it's a developer, we want to try and understand what they're building, when it's going to be done, what type of space is going to be available, because we want assets that we can market to people. We frequently have requests for proposals from site selectors looking for a certain type of site, a certain amount of square feet, and a certain date. So we have to then reach out to those developers and say, do you want to participate in this opportunity, right? Here's what they're looking for. Does this fit your business purpose and what you're interested in doing? So for us, it's important to understand that inventory of what's out there and what the timelines are. And I think most importantly, we work with them. We have a shared goal, and that goal is to get people to sign leases to be here. So for us, it's sometimes a little awkward. Our role is to work with the company and to make sure the company wants to be here. The company is the one who receives incentives from the state and from the county and from the localities. And so we end up having conversations with the company ourselves on those perspectives. They're obviously having discussions with the real estate broker or landlord about how much they could pay in rent, how many dollars they get in tenant improvements when they're occupy the term of lease and those sorts of things. So I think we work very hard to have good relationships with them.
And when those conversations happen, and one of the panelists mentioned that a piece of information that was asked about comes at the end. Typically, it's a lagging indicator, a lagging piece of information, and I presume that we want to try to get the front end and leading information as quickly as possible. But when you get that information, what then happens? Because of the nature of MCEDC being a quasi-governmental agency, for lack of a better term, you're not directly within any of the county functions. And so when you pick up the phone and are asked about a piece of property or about any permitting or regulatory changes that a business would ask for, who then do you go to?
So if it's a planning issue, permitting issue, I pick up the phone and I talk to them. We'll immediately reach out to the planning department, reach out to the permitting department, ask for help, ask to understand what's going on. Frequently the county executive's office is involved, whether it's someone on Jake's team, without using names, although it's not private information. We had a large company who was building a... And
Mr. Weissman is back here listening. So.
No, I'm talking... I know Jake's
full disclosure.
Here. I'm talking about brand names of companies.
Oh, got it.
Is what I meant. They have a team of people who work in the regional service center. So there may be very well times that someone's having a project, problem with the project. The person in the regional service center is involved with it. Someone asks us to get involved. Usually it's the company who asks us. And we'll get involved. We've had those cases where we sit down and bring everyone in the room, whether it's permitting, planning, the developer, the landlord, and the company who's leasing the property. Sometimes it's just helping to smooth communication, because there's 6 different people having 6 different conversations, and not everyone wants to sort of take responsibility for the challenges that they've caused. And that's not always the county. That sometimes is developer or somebody in the construction or trades. But I think we have a great relationship. There was a large project this past year. One of the federal agencies was considering leaving. First people we picked up the phone and talked to were Judy Costello in the county executive's office, and started working on that immediately. And so she gets very engaged with a lot of these projects with us to make sure that not only what we're trying to do, that the county executives team is behind us and is fully engaged on the same page.
I'll ask a question and understand the nature of what I'm asking, but is that the most optimal situation?
No. And the reason it's not optimal is by the time problems get to us, they're a really big problem.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I ask.
And not only are they a really big problem, they're the exception. It's the really big projects that have really big problems who get to us.
But here's what we do to counter that, because we're not necessarily going to change ourselves, the system. It's, are we on the ground floor of the discussions for things that are coming down the pike, coming down the road? So as an example, the Lerner Corporation is working on a major project. You have not heard about it yet, because they want to make sure that all the ducks are in the row before they start anything, in terms of how the state's going to respond, whether it's infrastructure needs. So we're working with them now on what is going to happen. Same thing is true for Federal Realty, who is finishing out a major project, which you're very familiar with. But before they go to the next steps, we are talking to them now about how to pull everything together before something happens or goes wrong. So it's not always negative. It's really pre-planning. And then we track all of this on a regular basis to make sure that these projects are moving forward. If there was an obstacle, did we overcome the obstacle? Who else did you have to get involved? So there's a very long list, and the answer is not always the same.
Yeah. Are you all involved in the working group with the county?
No, we asked to be, but we're working through our friend in the back of the room, Mr. Weissman. He's assured us that from his organization's point of view, they have representation there. I read the reports to make sure that the input is being provided. And as Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez said, there's good stuff coming out of there. I would say that it's still a challenge because of the way we are structured and so fixing those things without dramatic changes is something that I'll leave to the experts. But the answer is, yeah, we understand exactly what the challenges are and some things you can overcome. Some things are still, you have to change the DNA.
Yeah.
It's not just that the rules may exist, by the way.
Well, you're in good company. I wish the council had more representation on that as well, but we are where we are, and we'll receive the report out when it comes. But I want to put a pin on this. We need to dive deeper into it, and probably the most appropriate time is when that work group comes out, although that I know is just the tip of the iceberg. And so in the same vein as cutting red tape and streamlining processes, there are processes here that we need to refine better. So thank you. I look forward to more of this.
Thank you. And by the way, that report from the work group, I had a meeting with Delegate Leslie Lopez, who initiated all this, and that report is going to come out in October. Councilmember Lauren Sills.
All right, thank you. So speaking about the stakeholders that were just here, and you know, it's always about who's not in the room, and we're talking about the education needs. I know that the Board of Education's Collaboration Board for Career and Technology Education advises the Board of Education and the Board of Trustees of Montgomery College on a lot of the issues that are before us today. But how are these discussions happening within MCEDC? And I know that you all meet monthly. Are we inviting these brokerage firms? I know that Mr. Weissman is also involved in those monthly meetings. And so, you know, as the Economic Development Committee, I don't know what the timeline is for this task force report, who's involved, but I'm surprised and very disappointed to hear that the MCDC, kind of the cornerstone of this whole operation, isn't a part of this. So I'm a bit confused, and I don't know if Mr. Weissman wants to contribute to that, but if you want to answer that first question I have.
Are you referring to the work group?
That's the state delegate Leslie Lopez, the work group that she put together after Senator Kramer came with his bill, and that work group was formed. We had a discussion here as a full council about it, and so it was the state, the legislation who decided who was going to be part of it, and there's several members, and the meetings are open to the public. There are 2 coming up, and then again the last one is October. But we were briefed about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm surprised that our Economic Development Corporation is not a part of it as an economic development discussion, as the conveners of bringing business, attracting, retaining, and growing. So that's a concern that we should all share.
Well, we did ask to participate, but we were under the impression that through the people who are represented in the work group that our point of view would be heard. And frankly, I don't have to sit at the table as long as I know that the point of view is getting across. If it's being through you, that's fine with me, because I know you represent us well.
DPS is there, different agencies are involved.
But no one from our...
We didn't choose who could be there.
Exactly.
It wasn't our decision.
No, I'm not disputing who made the decision, but a discussion about economic development, not having members of this committee or this body is of concern. So that's what I wanted to clarify. And so speaking about the educational needs, the gaps that the brokerage firms highlighted, and knowing that we tried to convene stakeholders during these economic development discussions, what do those partnerships look like when we are talking about these?
We have partnerships coming out of our ears. Some are effective and some are not as effective. So just remember that WorkSource Montgomery is co-located in our office.
Yeah.
We meet with them at multiple levels weekly, I also sit on the Workforce Advisory Board, and I'm on the committee that looks at workforce needs in particular industries, hospitality and life sciences. So that's one very strong connection as a very small example. Joe Hurst, who is one of our business development managers on our staff, is dedicated what percent of his time?
70%.
70% of his time to looking at what the workforce needs are and what the communication is between the demand side and the supply side. I am involved with USG on many different activities that they have, but I also want to reinforce the fact that we can't just look at the three institutions that are here, USG, Montgomery College, and MCPS.
Yeah.
You know, you got to take advantage of being in the DMV. It's not always all about Montgomery County, Maryland. We are here because we're also part of the DMV. And if you go to Johns Hopkins or the University of Maryland outside of USG, or Howard University, or George Washington University, you know what? It only takes 20 minutes to get to those places. So who cares whether they are located within our borders or not? They are for us. And we need to spend as much time looking at the talent that they are developing that is relevant to us as we do the institutions that we always bring up. So let's not be too closed-minded about thinking it's all Montgomery County. If you look at the assets in the region, it is also about taking what is there that we can't deliver on and not feel bad about it. A lot of people comment on whether or not, now I'm moving out of the lane a little bit, but I think this is an important fact, important piece of information. People talk about the fact that Montgomery County lost Amazon HQ2. We were lucky to be in the running, but guess what? Because it came to the region, we won. Because of the talent that it is attracting to this region, they are not going to work at Amazon forever, number one. Number two, Amazon has a bigger name than Montgomery County, for better or worse. So when you look on a national stage about the companies that are here or that are spending time in this region, that is a benefit to us. They're bringing the resources. Our job is then, when the door is open, to then go and make sure that we are parroting the benefits of why you should be here versus over there. And that's where, as it was said earlier, with all of the assets we talk about, we do have a great story to tell.
Yeah, so I wasn't just referring to MCPS, but all of our academic institutions in the region, and just trying to better understand how MCDC is engaging with those other partners. How are we reaching out to the HBCUs all across the state of Maryland? You know, right across the river, there are talented institutions that, you know, George Mason. So we have all sorts of educational places that are expanding their academic programs, especially in the areas that we have interest in. So just wanted to better understand how we are partnering with those institutions on a regular basis to promote the needs of the businesses that are locating here or want to locate here, but can't because of the lack of talent. And then I had another question about the work between MCDC and the Business Center. I know that it's expanded to the Small Business Center, and so just want to understand how that relationship is going, and if you can share.
Well, Gene Smith is not here today, so I think you want to ask him the same question, although Jake is here, his boss. We spend a lot of time with the Business Center. And that's because we are integrated partners. So if you look at especially business to business and non-strategic industries, when we run into those businesses, we're not going to let them go and say, we don't know what you should do. We are going to refer them, not just refer them to, but work with the Business Center to make sure that the experience is as complete as possible, and vice versa. Because the Business Center gets a lot of input, and they get requests that are for us. And so the dialogue with our business development team is ongoing. It is on a daily basis. At every level. I am very pleased with the relationship we have, but I think you should also ask Mr. Weissman and Mr. Smith.
Definitely. I guess that will be okay. He's on his way down. And then I have a question about marketing to finish up after Mr. Weissman.
I'll just be very quick, Councilmember. For the record, Jake Weissman, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer for the County Executive. Apologies for not wearing a tie. I was not planning on testifying today. I would just second what Mr. Tompkins said. We're appreciative of the renewed collaboration between our organizations, and I think what's important to keep in mind is the strategic plan that the council passed last year specifically lays out a no wrong door policy for county government and its partners, which specifically delineates that no matter who gets contacted, whether it's a county agency, one of our partners in planning, or MCEDC, or wherever, they are to ensure that those businesses get assisted, and we've been appreciative for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then my last question is about the marketing materials. I know the Be Next, I saw a commercial for it on the news the other night. How are we tracking the return on that investment, and how long is that campaign going to run for?
Sure. There are multiple aspects to that campaign. I'm going to back up for a second that we have multiple marketing efforts. It's not just Be Next. Be Next is the branding piece of what we do to try to get people thinking about, what do you think about when you think about Montgomery County? And if we had more time, I would play our branding video where people from David Marriott to Ken Mills talk about why you want to be next in Montgomery County. So it's based on a combination of reach, frequency, based on attitudinal awareness in terms of surveys that we are in the process actually of conducting for that campaign to figure out which pieces of it will continue going forward. We didn't just do it for it to be a one-time initiative. The assumption was that if the brand of Montgomery County continues to build in a positive way, then we want to spend more money on that in terms of being effective. So for that campaign, we have about 6 or 7 different measures. Actually, that will be in our annual report also, but we can share that with you tomorrow.
And so is this like an in-house designer, or how do you engage with what they're going to be producing?
Well, it's in transition, and I'll tell you, explain why. So when we put that together, we went to multiple stakeholders in terms, including members of the county executive's office. There were a few council members who participated, businesses, the list goes on in terms of what is it that we need, what problem are we trying to solve, and what are the key issues. We interviewed 1,500 people. And then we hired a professional agency to develop the very specific strategies, to develop the elements of the strategy, the media plan, the creative, and so forth. Where we are now is that since we have a pretty good feel for what works and what doesn't, and what I mean by what doesn't is that we went too broad, and we really need to narrow our focus because we used too many different types of mediums without enough punch, but we saw which ones worked well for us in a cost-effective way, because it's expensive to do branding campaigns. Whether we continue doing all of that internally, I think with the creative we have, we feel pretty good about media placement and our capabilities with the partners we have, whether it be at iHeartRadio or whether it be through the USA 9 network. It will continue, but it will continue in a form that is more focused. As you will see when we come up before the budget, when we talk about attraction, most of that branding is tied to this market and to getting everybody on the same page here so that people stop complaining about Montgomery County, but instead shaking their heads, yes, I can be next here. The next challenge will be how we then look at focused markets, whether it's for life sciences or technology outside of this region, and effectively go after those markets in addition to what we're doing when we go to a trade show in a particular region. It's a great opportunity to attract businesses here now in the Bay Area. The Bay Area is falling apart in some ways, and the areas where it's falling apart are ideal for us. So how do we then find the right marketing dollars and, of course, the sales impact to go into that market and effectively slice out? If it's just 10 companies that we get, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think I'm just concerned about some of these marketing materials, and I don't know how we can collaborate on the marketing materials before they are actually produced, but like this unlocking your full potential in business, and there's a football team, this, I'm just wondering who's thinking about these things as they're going out, who's approving them, and how are they being evaluated by this body that's supposed to oversee all of the funding capabilities for MCDC. So
I'm going to interject really quickly, and also I'm going to move things along too. Delegate Lutke, you have a question too, right? After this?
Yeah, just a quick one.
And just on that point from Councilmember Sales, we do have a representative from the County Council to the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, and that's Councilmember Marilyn Balcom, who actually sits on their board, and it's part of these discussions and approvals. Would you like to mention or share any?
I attend those as well, but I don't know if we necessarily weigh in on the marketing.
As a representative,
I can give my opinion. I personally am not a marketing expert. I don't feel like that's something that the county council should have oversight over, the marketing materials from MCEDC.
Okay, thank you. And you do attend their meetings?
I do.
Yeah, I also attend the meetings, and I do have a background in marketing communications, and if we're not seeing the return on our investment when we're putting our money in there, and we work with businesses, we talk with businesses all the time about what brings them to our community. We see trade shows, we've been to the conferences at MACO to see what's being produced, and so we should be able to weigh in if we have concerns about what's being marketed, about our economic incentives. So
I encourage.
Did you want to?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I had the same conversation with Council President Glass, that you're also professionals and human beings, and if you have a reaction or a thought that's going to help us, don't hesitate to say, look, here's what I saw, this was great, or here's what I saw, help me with this. Please do not hesitate to do that. But I would say, in terms of a general body, we did preview the Be Next campaign with anybody on the council who wanted to participate. This goes back a year now.
Okay.
I did just find out that the Be Next ad that you were looking at with the football team was for the Commanders yearbook. So that's why there is football in the background.
Yes, so yes, I would love to be able to view any upcoming ad campaigns that you are releasing.
Perhaps we can follow up with Councilmember Sales in your office so she can have a meeting with your marketing team and have a preview. That would be great.
We would love to do that.
Thank you. Perfect. Councilmember Lutke?
Sure, just quickly, and this, I apologize because this goes all the way back to you at the beginning. You're talking about the importance of networking and connecting in the different conferences and trade shows and things that you all go out to. And so, I was intrigued by that. So I looked at the Site Selectors Guild to just kind of see, and I know you already had that conference for this year. It has an agenda for the next year, but doesn't have last year's agenda, but it talks about table talk. And I was like kind of looking at the format. Is that like speed dating for marketing?
So that's exactly like speed dating. So for table talks, site selectors go around the table. You sit in your table, and they come to you to talk about your particular county and why companies should locate there.
So obviously networking is a crucial part of every conference. We attend, you all attend, that relationship piece of it cannot be denied. But in terms of substantive stuff, right, outside the handshaking and the business card exchanging, aside from these types of give me your elevator pitch type of thing, what level of more in the weeds work gets done at these conferences that assists with your mission?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the site selector conferences, especially during table talks, we're having conversation about a particular site. So if we know that the site selector works on life sciences, then we'll talk to them about, here is the total real estate that is being built in Montgomery County, and here are the companies that are located here, and here's the kind of innovation that we're seeing here, right? So all that to educate them in terms of why this is a good place for life sciences companies. So when they're working on a next client who might be a life sciences, then they'll come to us and at least provide us with an opportunity to respond to our RFI, which is all we ask for with site selectors.
So how many different, like the one you went to in March, how many different industries were you able to pitch? I know life sciences obviously is a big one for us, but how many other types of industries were you able to pitch?
So this is going to be my first one from Montgomery County. I was in Washington, D.C. before, so when I was in Washington, D.C., there were 3 industries that we're focused on at that point. And my job was specifically to find out site selector staff focuses on those 3 industries and pitch them on those 3 industries.
Okay, can you let Madam Chair know what the top hits are going to be for the 2024 conference, since you're new to our region?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So those are going to be focused on the strategic industries that we have. So our job is going to be able to figure out who are the site selectors that focus on life sciences, technology, hospitality, and corporate SKUs. And once we have an idea of who they are, then we're going to build a relationship with them throughout the year by talking to them on email, newsletter, phone calls, LinkedIn messages, whatever it might be, so that they know who we are. And I'll give you an example for why that's important. So when I was in Washington, D.C., this is about 4 years ago, a site selector came to me and said, hey, I have a project for the DMV area. Who should I talk to in Maryland? So they didn't have a point of contact here at Montgomery County at that point, right? So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to change, is when a site selector looks at a particular project, they look at the larger area first. They look at the DMV market, then they look at the MSA, and then they look at the local county level. And at that point, we want to be there for them so that they know we can provide them with the information that they need.
So, and one other more specific question about the technology sector in particular, because it's, technology is a big, broad umbrella. And obviously we have certain niche industries that are critical to Maryland, like cybersecurity and NSA and attracting people that work to and provide contracting services to those federal agencies that are housed in and around the DC metro area. But what is our niche market in technology that makes Montgomery County stand out different from our neighbors?
Brad, do you want to answer that?
That's a good question with a difficult answer. You're exactly right that technology is a huge number of different things, and there's a lot of it we don't do here. We don't do consumer electronics. We don't do things like that. We faced the same challenge in life sciences when I got here, because life sciences is 1,000 sub-industries. There's probably 5 we do well. In Montgomery County, we do a reasonably good job at cybersecurity. Most of that is not government-focused cybersecurity. Most of that occurs in places that have dark fiber connections to NSA or CIA or other places, which is why you see a lot in Howard County and Arundel County. So for us, cybersecurity is important. We do have a reasonably sized defense industry, which we would consider technology. Companies that support work in that field, like Rada Technologies up in Germantown. We have autonomous vehicle companies here, like Robotics Research up in Clarksburg, who does both military and non-military vehicles. And then we have a lot of service providers. So that is really a huge amount of what we see here are people who are doing IT consulting, IT support, government contractors, those sorts of people. So that's it.
Back to your question about when we go to trade shows or beyond the networking, we also look for companies or organizations that are going to create the domino effect. So, for instance, at Bio, where there were 23,000 people there, is that about right? That's pretty big. Or 18,000, I'm sorry, 18,000. It's like, where do you start? Well, going back to the list, there happens to be a company that focuses on SBIR and STTR grants. And that's part of our backyard. So we met with that company to look at what their portfolio looks like across the United States in terms of their client base. And then that helps us, because it's not just us, it's that company operating on our behalf. When we go to Select USA, for instance, that's a big part of our international strategy. So we look at the places where we've already been, because we're making those investments, whether it be Taiwan, upcoming India, Vietnam, South Korea. What companies that are there are in those specific countries, such that since we've picked them as a target, we have a much broader list of companies to work on in terms of attraction efforts. Just two small examples.
Yep, got it. Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for being here today. The next session with the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation on business retention will be on October 9. Meanwhile, I'll be meeting with our team to follow up on everything that we discussed today and then share with the committee and get their views. We'll also follow up with you. At the end of the day, I think we all understand that we need to be very aggressive in increasing jobs in Montgomery County and working with all our partners to make sure that we don't just say that we have, you know, a vibrant county. We do, but we need people to live and work here. So with that, thank you so much for your time, and we are adjourned.
In the Senior Center.
This is the last of an 8-week session of Music in Motion, and we've been doing a different Broadway musical each week, and today